Hello and welcome to the
Higgledy podcast.
I did it quickly, yay. I'm Peter, I'm your boy, known as Peter 32 Ribs. And today I'm joined by my occasional co-host, Alex, getting jiggy with it, Alex.
Yes, hello. I'm getting jiggy with it all the time.
How many ribs do humans have?
I don't know.
I don't think it's
have
32.
no idea.
I think I overestimated.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've got
That
some
sounds
spare
a lot.
I've
That
got some
sounds a lot
spare
to
ribs
something.
in the fridge, so you know. Yeah, if you don't know what this podcast is, it's a podcast where nerds, we talk about nerd stuff. Today we're going to be talking about the D&D movie, John Wick 4, all of the Marvel, KOTOR being delayed, and Andor. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I nearly did the one that's not a thing. Yeah, we'd really appreciate it if you did at least one of those things, please. We're desperate. We're back. It's a brand new season. Don't know what season it is, but we took like a 4-week break or something.
It's like season 6 or 7 at this point, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's in that region. I just don't know where it is. When did we last upload? I'm
It's got to be like 4 weeks ago now.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't intentional. We didn't intend to take a break, but we did because we're awful at this whole thing.
Stuff came up. I went on holiday. Pretty sure one of us was sick.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
I,
you were.
literally the day we were due to record, I got home from work, sat down, chilled for like 20 minutes, and then violently vomited into my toilet for like 20 minutes before the podcast, and went, yeah, no, I think I'm probably not going to be able to come.
Yeah.
Was that last week? That might have been last week, but it feels like longer ago.
Yeah, I think it might have been last week because
we aimed to then do it later on in the week, but then you were busy, and it's just
yeah, and then one week we it was just so fucking hot in the UK that we were both just like tired and exhausted and just overheated, and we were just like, nah,
yeah,
it's not happening tonight.
It was 3 weeks ago though, so we're not quite at a month. We did it.
Good.
I mean,
that's what we like to hear.
We might be like a couple of days away from a month. We're 4 days away from it being a month, so.
Oof. Well, we got there before then, so.
Yeah. So. What do we want to talk about first? D&D movie? That's like the top of the list, right?
Yeah.
So they announced the D&D movie a while ago, and this Comic-Con that's just passed, which is now like 2 weeks ago because we're so far behind, they revealed the trailer to it. It's got Chris Pine. That's like the only name. Hugh Grant's in it, and then everyone else's name, I'm afraid I don't know your name off by heart. Some actors I recognized, I just don't remember their names. So,
I didn't even recognize most of them. But that's not to say it's like a bad thing, or like, you know, I'm not trying to say, oh, like it's a bunch of newbies, you know. It doesn't matter to me really. Like, if it's good, it's good, and also if they're good actors, then great. That's a few more actors that I like in the future.
There's the guy from Bridgerton that everyone has a crush on. He's like the paladin, I want to say. It looked like he was a paladin sort of guy in the trailer. He's like wearing heavy armor, and
I honestly couldn't like tell what anyone was. The only one I could tell was Chris Pine as a bard, simply because he had an instrument.
And they made direct reference to the fact that he was yeah.
And the druid, of course, that was pretty easy. But
no, she can't be a druid though, because druids can't wild shape into owlbears, because owlbears are monstrosities in D&D's rules as written, and wild shape only allows you to transform into beasts.
Well, fuck you, it's a rule of cool.
Exactly. I mean, everyone who's complaining about stuff in this trailer like that, if you have genuine criticisms of this trailer, I've seen people say, feels a bit too Marvel for my liking. Fair enough. If that's not up your alley, then I understand that. But the whole complaint about things like the owlbears or jumping into Zlatan's cubes, I'm just like, it's cool. I don't give a shit. It's cool. It's cool to see. I'm down for it.
Yeah, especially just to see like all of these different creatures and stuff that we've seen across our D&D games and everything, actually on the big screen and seeing characters interact with it and everything, like, I couldn't give a shit. Like, D&D is such a, like, personal thing for, like, so many people. Like, every game is different. Like, you would be hard pressed to find a game that played exactly the same way. In fact, you just would, because every game is different.
Every DM is different. Every player is different. Different players will like different things. They'll come up with some players are like always constantly like, could I do this? And the DM's like, sure, you could try.
Yeah, exactly.
And other players will just be like, I swing my sword.
You know, and like DMs, it's up to the DM if they want to change things. They can change anything they want. If it happens to be changing an owlbear from a monstrosity into just like a creature, then, you know, that's up to them.
And I can absolutely categorically say as a DM that if my players went, I'm going to jump into a gelatinous cube to avoid a displacer beast, and then the rest of the party who are all next in the initiative order went, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. That sounds like a good idea. I'll be like, okay, you can. I'm not going to say no. Like, D&D is full of players making... Because as a DM, you know a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes. You know about the rules, and you're looking things up and such. Like, there is a lot of times when players do things that objectively to you as the DM with all of that knowledge are like, that's fucking stupid, but I'm not going to stop you from doing it because it sounds funny. So... yeah,
exactly. Just the way I'm thinking about it is the writers of this movie are the DM of it.
Yeah, I will say I really hope that there might. I don't expect it to be, because there's been several D&D movies, but one D&D movie in particular with Jeremy Irons that I remember renting from my local library all the time when I was a kid. It's a bad movie. I knew it was a bad movie when I was a kid. It's still fun, but that movie wasn't. It was just a fantasy movie set in a D&D world. I don't expect this movie to be any different, but I would love it if there is actually an element of them actually playing D&D, and it occasionally like cutting to the players at the table. Not a lot, but just a little bit would be fun. I saw a comment that was like, this movie needs a scene where someone's trying to pick lock a door, and they're like struggling, and then it just like comes up with a title card saying 20 minutes later, and then someone like kicks the door down. Just like play into those tropes of D&D. That would be fun. But yeah, even if it's not that, it's just a fantasy movie set in a D&D world. If it's fun, it's fun. That's what I want out of a D&D movie, is just a fun thrill ride. And I liked what I saw in the trailer. I will say there are some things I didn't love in the trailer, but by and large, I thought this looks more on the Guardians of the Galaxy side, and I think the writers or the director has said it's kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque film. Again, some people are going to dislike that, but I think Guardians of the Galaxy feels like Starfinder, and I think Starfinder actually came out after the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, but Starfinder is sci-fi Pathfinder being a spin-off of Dungeons and Dragons made to be kind of closer to the older rule set. So Starfinder is kind of a sci-fi cousin of D&D. They're very closely related in their DNA, and you look through the Pathfinder artwork and you look at the rules and everything, you're like, this feels like a Guardians of the Galaxy tabletop role-playing game. So it makes a lot of sense really for that then kind of secular nature that the D&D movie would feel a bit Guardians of the Galaxy-esque.
I also think it's probably going to be a little bit of a task to kind of live up to something which we had recently, which was The Legend of Vox Machina. Now, anyone that's seen that can probably attest to the fact that like it definitely had that D&D feel. You know, there were so many like Easter eggs and or just like plot points that, you know, just feels exactly what would happen in a D&D game. I mean, as you said about the door lock picking, that,
they have a very similar scene.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that was such a good interpretation of like a D&D type setting with the characters and everything, because it is based off of a D&D game. And obviously, you know, that might not be the case for the movie, but it is still possible to put those things in there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like everyone that's seen Legend of Vox Machina might be like comparing the two a little bit. And
People on
I
Twitter are
don't,
already comparing the druid tiefling to Caliph and saying that they ripped off Caliph because it's a redhead druid.
I mean, okay, whatever.
Which is like, there are so many redhead druids in fantasy. Like, it's not just Caliph, and I don't think they're ripping off Caliph, but hey ho.
Yeah,
Particularly
I
because
mean,
also the actress is a redhead, so it's not even
well,
like they dyed her hair.
yeah. I just don't think it matters. I think it's good to sort of look back on the Legend of Vox Machina, like in this film, and kind of think what this film does similarly, which
Mhm.
is good, but also don't like rip into it too hard if they just miss some of those types of things out. Like realistically, if it's a good story and the characters are all enjoyable to watch,
Mhm.
I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with it. I think even if it, doesn't have all these like Easter eggs to do with it, whatever, as long as everything else is good, I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna enjoy it.
I I will say I think the one thing that if people are expecting it to try and be like Vox Machina that they shouldn't expect it to do is this film. Like, they haven't announced an age rating because it's like 2023, like March, I think, 2023. So they're not going to announce the age rating for ages because it won't be rated yet. But it's not going to, realistically, it's not going to be a 15 or an 18, is it? They're going to go for the sort of 12 market where they get the majority of people to be able to go see the film, like a 12, 12A, like most Marvel films are, because they want to get as many people in the door as possible. That's perfectly fine, but therefore don't expect lots of F-bombs and very
Yeah,
overtly sexual jokes and lots of blood and gore, because it's not going to be that. But that was one of the things with Legend of Vox Machina, and I actually saw some people criticize it for being too much like that, which I think is possibly a side effect of it being you're taking what was like roughly 4-hour sessions and diluting it into like a 30-minute episode instead. So the number of those sorts of things is much higher in that 30 minutes rather than over the course of 4 hours. But D&D is silly. Even a serious campaign. I mean, I run a fairly serious D&D campaign, but playing the game is silly. You're playing pretend you're in a fantasy world. You make jokes both out of character and in character. So even though the world is serious and the story is serious and it's all doom and gloom and whatever, we still had things like the bloody dwarf blacksmith who only spoke with Thanos quotes, like, just because it was a dumb joke that came up and then stuck. So like, so yeah, I think Legend of Vox Machina very much captured that kind of silly, jokey vibe as well, and the fairly violent nature that D&D can be, and I don't expect this to
yeah.
be quite as much that. But Chris Pine's character is called Edgin, and the way they announced it on Twitter is that Chris Pine is Edgin the Bard with a gif of him from the trailer. So someone definitely did that intentionally. Like that, there's no way that is just an unfortunate coincidence. That is someone making a sex pun for the Bard character, who will be a horny bard, and that's
I'm here
D&D.
for it.
Yeah, you could absolutely imagine some player just being like, "My bard's gonna be called Edgin,"
Yeah.
and just be like, "Oh, yeah, okay, sure."
But, again, like Legend of Vox Machina, and I was kind of having this conversation with someone the other day. I can't remember who it was. But it is for the fans, like mainly the fans of Critical Role. I mean, it was the fans that kickstarted it in the first place.
Mhm.
Like it was very much a sort of like a personal mission of the critters and the cast to make this thing and put it out there. And so obviously a lot of the humor and like the swearing and gore in it is because it did happen in that campaign, and that is what it is. It is based off of their campaign for them and their fans.
Mhm.
If other people watch it and like it, that's great, you know? But like realistically, it wasn't like, I mean, obviously they probably changed it slightly so that it was for a larger audience, because everyone in that industry is going to try and do that, because they're not going to do it for like a tiny population, but still, it is like definitely mainly for the fans. And I'm almost happy if this new D&D movie is like a 12 or something like that, and it is for more people, because it pushes D&D more into the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And like, you know, obviously you have the gatekeepers out there that are like, oh, you know, like it's like not everyone needs to like know about it. They're just gonna like, they're not gonna get it, you know, like they're not going to enjoy it as much as us. And to them I say fuck off. Like, the more people that play it, the more games out there for people to play. As someone who's had a drought of games in the past and really wanted to play, it sucks. So the more people out there, the more games that are going to play, the more players that are going to be able to fill up groups and more DMs, etc. Like, it's just good for the game overall if it gets more people into it. And so I'm kind of happy if that is the case.
Yeah. I think my worst, not my worst case, my lowest kind of expectation for this film is that it's a fun sort of popcorn movie that I can turn my brain off for the most part and just enjoy it being a silly, fun movie, and that also, as a result of it, more people get introduced to D&D. If that happens, it's a win in my book. If it's a great movie and it introduces more people to D&D, amazing. The worst case scenario is that it's a really bad movie and it makes people actively avoid D&D. But I don't think it's going to be that. I think at the very least it's going to be like a subpar movie that gets some more people in the door, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I also think it might have... I think Stranger Things might actually push it forward, because a lot of people watch Stranger Things, probably a lot of which didn't play D&D before, and so now they've seen it in that, even if they haven't had a go themselves at it yet. I feel like coming off of Stranger Things, hearing about it and kind of seeing a little bit about what it's actually all about, then having an actual film coming out dedicated solely to D&D, I think those fans may actually just like flood to the film just to see a bit more about it.
They've really timed it, I think, really, really well, where they've kind of like, they're striking while the iron's hot. Because I've actually seen people see like, oh, this movie would have been good if it came out 5 years ago. The popularity of D&D has been a steady increase for years now, and really, like, people give a lot of credit to Stranger Things, and rightly so. They give a lot of credit to Critical Role, and rightly so. But in American media, not so much over here, because I don't think it's as popular a show here, there is a very famous episode of Community where they play D&D, and Community was an immensely popular show, and I don't remember exactly when that came out, but it predates definitely Stranger Things. It might predate Critical Role. Like, you know, and before that, D&D was a joke. It appeared in TV shows like Big Bang Theory as the joke where the loser nerds dress up like wizards, and that's not really what most people who play D&D are. And if you do dress up for your D&D game, that's cool. I'm not going to judge you for doing that, but that's not what the majority of people do. And the thing I hate about Big Bang Theory, and fair enough, it does kind of, credit where credit's due, Big Bang Theory has introduced some nerd stuff to a wider audience, and so some people have ended up discovering it. But there are also a lot of people who, when you talk about something like D&D, they go, oh, that thing from Big Bang Theory, and the reality of it is something that's a butt of a joke. So the more we move away from that, the better. And it's, as I say, it's been this like steady increase for years now, really since 5th edition came out. And so, yeah, a movie coming out now is like the perfect time. I'm a little bit worried they've announced that they're going to do a TV show as well. I'm like, don't do a... Yeah. Completely separate creative team, but they're doing a D&D TV show. I'm like, don't do a Dark Universe situation. Just take your time, but make it good. You know, if it's not going to be related to the movie, then just make a good TV show, frankly. But yeah, I don't know. It looks fun. I do have a little criticism though for it, which is that the cast looks incredibly human for D&D. D&D is like, you know, you can play as anything really. And okay, even if you're doing rules as written and you're doing the player handbook, which is just the base book, there's still, what, like 8 player races in that? 9 player races? It's a lot. And in that trailer, there's a lot of human-looking characters. I'm not 100% sure that they're all human. I think that one of them might be an elf. I might have seen pointy ears on one of them. I have a suspicion that the barbarian character might be a dwarf. If she is, she's a very tall dwarf, but there is a shot of her, like, throwing a guard, and she looks significantly shorter than the guard. But then, in shots of her, like, with Chris Pine, she looks like normal, average human woman height compared to Chris Pine. So,
well, yeah, she might just be normal height, but the guard was just very large.
Exactly. Or it could be a weird camera angle or whatever. But she might be a dwarf. Dwarf barbarian is kind of a cliche, so it wouldn't surprise me. But she looks very human. And then the tiefling, who I think looks awesome. Like, I love the design of the tiefling. And the fact that she turns into an owlbear is fucking cool in my book. But tieflings are usually like red, blue, and she's just human white. They basically they've done makeup on her ears and horns, and she's got a tail, but they've just got it being the normal actress's skin color. They haven't painted her a different color or anything, and I think that's a little bit of a shame, just because then the cast does look very human just at a glance. So
yeah, I mean, until you said that she was a tiefling, I genuinely had no idea. I thought she was a human. But
she's got elf ears, but she's got a horn and a tail, so people think she's a tiefling, but she might be something else, but she's probably a tiefling.
But just very quickly going back to, like, things pushing D&D into the forefront, I think it's great that all of these different shows and movies and everything are ticking different boxes. Like, I remember the conversation I had the other day now. I was saying how, like, Critical Role is or has been monumental for D&D's, like, steady increase in players, as you said. But that is still very, like, contained. Like, it's not D&D, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, you still kind of have to have some sort of interest in D&D, or stumble upon a video and watch it, or have friends that play it and get into it, or just play it yourself and then decide to watch it. Like, nobody really ever goes out of the way to just think, oh, I'm going to watch something D&D related, so like, it kind of spreads from within. But once you're already in that community, that's how it spreads. Whereas, things like Stranger Things, it just appeals to a mass audience and actually introduces people to it. And then again, with the D&D movie, like, Stranger Things is obviously international on Netflix, like one of the biggest shows ever on that platform, largely accessible to everyone. And, like, they get kind of introduced to it through that, but you only see short little bits of it, and you don't really actually get to see much of the game or what happens in the game, because obviously all the names and stuff they use for the monsters and everything, the monsters aren't actually anything like the way they are in D&D. So you kind of get a hint about what D&D is about, but not like a full view of it, whereas D&D, the movie, is gonna hit that market basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that we have all these different places that D&D is coming from to help people get introduced to it. So yeah, I'm really happy that we've got so much.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to be a D&D fan, and what's more, it's great that I do see some people occasionally online complain about D&D, because D&D is the tabletop role-playing game. Like, if you say the words tabletop role-playing game to someone who doesn't know anything about tabletop role-playing games, they go, oh, what's that? And you go, do you know what D&D is? And they go, yeah, I've heard of D&D. And I'm like, yeah, it was D&D. So people get sometimes annoyed with that, because they're like, there's so many other great games out there. Yes, absolutely. I love so many tabletop role-playing games. I have so many that I haven't even had the chance to run yet that I want to one day. But the thing is, not to talk about trickle-down economics, because trickle-down economics has been proven time and time again to not work in the vast majority of scenarios, but tabletop role-playing games, they do benefit from D&D being popular. Because if D&D is popular and you get someone into the door who's like, oh, I want to play D&D, and they play D&D and they like it, they have the opportunity to then discover other tabletop role-playing games from that. So it's great for the entire industry. So, you know, and there is other tabletop role-playing game content coming out. It's a fairly small-ish compared to D&D tabletop role-playing game, but there's a tabletop role-playing game that I am going to run for you one day, soonish, as in next 2 years or so. Hopefully, there's a game called Blades in the Dark, which is getting a TV show. So, and I think the thing that the other tabletop role-playing games, if they're having an adaptation made, that they really need to do is make it very clear it's adapted from a tabletop role-playing game, because my concern about Blades in the Dark as a TV show is that people will watch this TV show called Blades in the Dark and be like, that was a cool TV show, and have no idea that it's, you know, adapted from something. So, yeah. But
is that before or after Songs 3?
Depends when Songs 3 is ready.
Fair.
Fun fact, you'll be the first to know this real quick. We're probably getting towards the tail end of Leviathan Season 2.
Oh, damn.
Because Season 1 lasted 16 episodes, and this upcoming episode is episode 12. So I might, after this upcoming session, be like, hey, so what do you guys want to play next? But it still will be at least another 4 episodes, if not more. So it's just mainly because if it's Sundered Empire, then I need to give you a kick on the backside to actually do Sundered Empire stuff.
Oh, I desperately want to do Sundered Empire. You know what? As soon as we finish this podcast, I'm going to go start working on it.
For those of you who don't know, on my channel, which might be linked to Roll for Seduction, actually, you know, maybe Sundered Empire will be on this channel. I'm not sure. I have no objection to it being on the channel, so maybe we'll do it on this.
I think it'd be pretty cool, because I'm not getting around to doing my campaign anytime soon.
Yeah.
I still have to do my other campaign with Samo and the lads, so I can't do 2. I'm sorry for saying it on the podcast, but I just can't. I really have to prioritize, because I'm just not getting anything done, and I need to at least focus on like 1 or 2 things, one of which is a novel I'm writing, and the other one is I want to really start getting my campaign back up and running. So yeah.
But Sundered Empire is a pretty cool concept, if I do say so myself, tooting my own horn, because I didn't get this from some cool Reddit post or Twitter post, although people might have had this idea before, but I didn't grab it from anyone else. So it's an original Peter idea. It's very cool. Which is, I have my own D&D setting, which is Songs, which I'm working on the 3rd and kind of final Songs entry. I say final because it's the final in like a big story I've been telling across multiple campaigns.
This is the end game.
It is the end game, but that doesn't mean that I won't tell more stories within that universe down the line. Just it's the end of a thing that I started back when I was like 13. But
so we could have like another Fates and Tides type.
Yeah, exactly.
Spin-off.
But so I wanted to do another D&D campaign, but not in the Songs world, because my concern of doing another spin-off is that I don't want to give you too much of a lore drop before Songs 3, because that's when everything is going to get dropped. So, and I had this idea, which is like, well, why don't I create a world, but I don't want to put too much effort into creating the world because I'm working on Songs 3, and that's the big thing. But what if I get the players to also have to create basically their own kingdoms within the world, so that they are very much part of the world and the lore from the get-go, versus normally how D&D tends to work if you're doing a homebrew campaign is the dungeon master creates this world and the lore of the world, and then when you start playing with the players, the world and the lore develops because the players start interacting with it, but like, I don't know, 60-70% of it is made already, and then it adapts and it changes and it becomes complete through play. But with this, I'm like, no, I want you involved from day one. And so that's a pretty cool novel idea, I think. So I'm excited to see it.
And a little insight into my idea is a advanced, very civilized monster society. Take from that what you will.
Also, I've said that like literally any homebrew goes as long as I get to read through it first and go like, yeah, that doesn't break the game. So like there might be dinosaurs with laser guns. I don't fucking know.
Well, I've already sent. I already had your confirmation about my homebrew race that I wanted to include. I'm pretty excited to see that in play, actually.
Moving on though, unless you had anything else to say on D&D.
Nope, I think that's about it for me.
Cool. John Wick 4.
I'm really excited for this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been excited ever since I finished watching John Wick 3 when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like as soon as that finished, just goddamn. Like I love this series so much. And I know, you know, a lot of people with continuing series like although I don't know. I feel like there are some series where people complain about it going on for way too long, you know, like Fast and Furious, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also quite a lot of series where people just keep enjoying the movies, stuff like Mission Impossible. Like, they just keep releasing them and people keep flocking to watch them. And I desperately want John Wick to be that. And Keanu Reeves has come out and said that he will continue making them as long as people want to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely on board with just keep releasing them. I just want it. Like even if it just devolves into just pure like unadulterated violence simply for the sake of it and not have like any of the cool
it's getting pretty close to that, to be fair. I would say like John Wick 2 and 3 compared to, I rewatched John Wick 1 recently, and it's like John Wick 2 and 3 really are like off the reins compared to John Wick 1. John Wick 1 is very restrained in that regard of not just being constant crazy action. It's got quite a lot of like slow world building, and 2 and 3 are just like, fuck it, let's just go crazy. And I like it, but it's just like,
I mean, yeah, like,
it's escalating.
I kind of agree, but
I wouldn't be surprised if by John Wick 7 he's like doing some karate fight with some guy while riding a nuclear missile a la Just Cause 2. Like, you know, that's the level of craziness that it's escalating at. But I'm all for it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's still fun. Like
I think that the world they've created is just so unique, and like especially the continental, you know, and the underground.
Which I think
world
they're still working on a TV show for that. Like they said they were ages ago, and I think they've said that they're still developing it in the background. So
yeah, I'm really excited for that as well. But like just everything in that world, I just love. Like it just it's intriguing to me. You know, like, I want to learn more about it. I want to, you know, like when we got introduced to like the head of the table. Or whatever it was in John Wick 3.
Yeah.
Like, he's just some mystical guy just out in the desert who happens to be able to find people in the desert somehow. Like, I want to know, how does that work? But at the same time, do I really care?
Yeah, exactly. Like... and that's kind of what I mean by like off the wall crazy. But again, it's still enjoyable. It's like you compare that to John Wick 1, where one of my favorite bits in John Wick 1, because it's kind of similar level of mystery, but it's much more grounded, is just a police officer going, "You working again, John?" And John just going,
"Yeah,
no, I'm just sorting some stuff out." It's just like, why is this police officer completely fine with like 8 corpses in the background? Like, I want to know more. And then you get to John Wick 3 and it's like, I've got some weird mystic in the desert, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is, but it's fun and I don't care. Yeah. So but
and the cast for this new movie looks incredible.
Donnie Yen is front and center, which looks fucking cool.
Thank God. I was waiting for Donnie Yen in John Wick. I gotta say, I'm so sad that they killed off I can't remember his name now. Was that his name? The sushi chef?
Oh, I thought you were going with his character from Rogue One.
No. The like sushi chef. That's a fucking.
Try saying that 10 times fast.
I can't even say it once, mate.
Rob.
See, I've got that down. It's Rob McElhenney.
Well done.
But sushi chef is very difficult. But yeah, the guy that was like the massive John Wick fanboy in the third one, who he fights at the end. I was so sad that he got killed off. I thought he was an excellent character. Every time he was on screen, I was like, yes, Give me more of this guy. But if he had to go, I am extremely grateful they're bringing in Donnie Yen.
Lawrence Riddick's character is still alive at the end of John Wick 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we saw him in the trailer, but I really hope that he's in John Wick. He's one of my favorite characters in the John
He's
Wick universe.
got to be. He's
He's
got to
so
be.
good. Like, again, going back to John Wick 1, there's so much great humor there as well. With like, can the dry cleaners have a look at this? No dry cleaners is that good, sir. Ah, fear not. It's like, and then he starts wearing black shirts from that point on.
And when he takes a dog and then he returns it when he was a good dog.
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, no, I just think it looks really, really cool, and I'm totally fine with it. I get escalating to new levels of craziness. Like, I think it's possible that Donnie Yen might have blocked a bullet with his sword in that trailer. I watched it once on my phone, so because I didn't want to like analyze it too much. But if he did, I'm fine with it. I mean, they've already got body like armor, bulletproof suits, so like.
I'm also pretty excited to see that he has like actual allies this time around. Like I know he's had like a few over the films, you know, like the hotel manager, again, I'm blanking on his name. And you know, I can't remember anyone's names today. This is really bad. I have brain
Are
fog
you
or some
thinking
shit.
of Halle Berry's character in John Wick 3?
Yep, Halle Berry's character, Norman Osborn's character.
Oh, he died, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, he's had a few, but now he actually has like Lawrence Fishburne and his people, you know, to like who are actively involved in this war. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see like him actually have more people on his side, and maybe if he can get, you know, some bigger weaponry and, you know, stuff like that, and just do some more cool shit with that. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. I am very looking forward to it.
Now that we're getting Donnie Yen joining, who's, let's be real, he's fighting John Wick, he's probably going to die at the end of John Wick. Like, he's probably going to be the final fight and he's going to die. That's probably how that's going to go down. You never know. It might change. He might, like, they might come to an impasse and then they team up or whatever, but chances are he's the big bad who gets killed at the end of the film. But who else would you want to see join the John Wick universe?
Oh, who else would I like to see? Honestly, just like I don't know why his name just popped into my mind, but the first person that popped into my head was Dolph Lundgren. I don't know
I
who
would
he'd
be
play in
I
it,
would be fine with that, yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. I just think for some reason I think he'd fit in, kind of.
No, absolutely. I can totally see like him either playing like some grizzled mob boss who doesn't really get his hands dirty, or he's one who does get his hands dirty still. Like either or works really.
Yeah. Who would you want?
Mine's a bit of a weird one because you might not know the actor because he's not been in that much Western films, but I recently saw some clips from the Raid films and it got me back into the mood of watching the Raid, but then Netflix no longer has the Raid anymore, which is fucking annoying. So I watched one of his newer films, Iko Uwais, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's an Indonesian martial artist from the Raid and Raid 2. And he does a style called Penket Salat, which is fucking awesome and like incredibly brutal. And I just would love to see that style up against Keanu Reeves. Would be fucking awesome. If you haven't seen The Raid or The Raid 2, they are two of the best martial arts movies of all time. But they are in Indonesian, so you do need to watch them with subtitles. When we were talking about Hero Forge the other day, and I was like, I haven't been able to try it out because I've been watching an Indonesian film. That was the film I was watching. So,
There was another actor that just crept into my mind, but I again I can't. Scott Adkins,
oh
who
yeah,
was actually in Ip Man with Donnie Yen. Like I haven't actually seen many of the films that he's in, but I've seen like a lot of his stuff on YouTube and I've seen clips of him in, and like he's just a beast. Like, and also he's English, so I'm like I want to see some more Brits in John Wick, not just Fuck! What is going on with me?
Isn't Lance Reddick English?
Is he?
I think he is. I might be completely wrong, but I think he's English.
No, he's American.
Damn.
Shane.
Black?
No. Shane. The hotel manager.
Yeah.
Shane.
Isn't that Shane Black? No, that's a filmmaker. I know exactly who you're talking about though.
I feel like his second name might be Shane.
Is it like Ian Shane or something?
I'm just gonna Google it.
Ian Shane. Ian McShane.
Ian McShane. Yeah.
He's not. He's English actor. I would love to see him do some martial arts against Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, like he's great in it as well. I love his character. I mean, I love him in pretty much everything.
He has played a martial artist before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played Tai Lung in Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. Yeah, I think Scott Adkins would be pretty cool as well.
You know what? I'm just gonna throw it out there. My boy Charlie Cox. He's pretty good at his stunts in Daredevil.
Yeah. I could maybe see it.
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't have the necessarily sort of like
The right vibe.
yeah.
That's fair.
It would be cool. John Bernthal. I'd take John Bernthal.
John Bernthal would be pretty fucking cool, yeah. But yeah, no, I think it looks like a lot of fun, and it's just I think the one difficulty that John Wick has as a franchise, and I've enjoyed every single one of the films, but every single one of the films I'm like, oh, just you're good, you're fun, but you're not the lightning in the bottle that the first John Wick was. And I think the thing is with the first one, having rewatched it recently, is it's twofold. One is it's an establishment of a world, so like that slow reveal of the lore. The more lore you reveal, the less impactful the reveals are, if that makes sense. So there's that element, but more so than that, it's the whole Keanu Reeves returning to full form. Like he'd done movies in between, like The Matrix and John Wick. He was in a bunch of stuff, including stuff that he directed, and some of it's pretty good, but he wasn't really in the public zeitgeist as an actor for quite a while. And then John Wick comes back, and it's this kind of like cult film. Like the first film didn't do that amazingly, but it built up momentum when it was out of cinemas, like when it was out on home release. And it has that amazing line in it where it's like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. And it feels like it's Keanu Reeves saying it. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it feels like it's his declaration to the world that he's back. And he's been on that high ever since. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't. I will enjoy all of those films, but you're never going to be Keanu Reeves' back, baby. You know, like, he's still back now. So.
And, I mean, I would agree with you on the kind of fact that it feels like I agree. I think the first John Wick, as you said, was lightning in a bottle. I think I feel that way for a different reason than what you gave. And my reasoning is I mean kind of as you said, you know, a few minutes ago about, you know, the second and third movie kind of going off the rails a little bit and, you know, just expanding into something bigger than, you know, what was originally shown. And I think the reason that I love the first John Wick movie so much was because it kind of changed the way you look at action movies. Like a lot of these action movies, you know, have all these massive overarching plots with like evildoers that are actually like trying to, you know, like destroy whole countries and stuff, you know, or, you know, there's a lot of subterfuge and stuff like that. Whereas John Wick was a movie about a man who was completely broken because he got out of a life, met a woman that he loved, married her, and then she died, and then had everything the day after her funeral ripped away from him, including having his puppy killed. He then takes revenge for that. It's not some big plot like you know, as I said, someone destroying a country or, you know, trying to infiltrate a government. It's simply about a man getting revenge because he's just simply destroyed and distraught. And also the mythology that they build up around John Wick. Like in the beginning, you don't know who he is or what he does, but you feel for him. And then soon you learn that he's actually the guy who fucking kills the boogeyman, you know? And I think that whole build up was just so fucking good.
Like when the car guy strikes Vigo's son, and you're like, this guy's dead. And then he's like, I'm gonna tell my father about that. He's like, yeah, you tell your father about that. And you're like, and then Vigo's like, why did you strike my son? You stole John Wick's car, sir. Fair enough. It's just like, you're like, what the fuck? It's so good, yeah.
And also, like, another thing is, obviously, in a lot of action films, you have these long, drawn-out fights with, you know, the main protagonist and the main antagonist, and they're conversing during it and whatever. But in John Wick, the guy's like, it was just a fucking that's it, you know? But the main bad guy is just dead. And I just feel like it just turned the whole action genre on its head. I think it was so unique. And like, again, like I love the second and third movies probably just as much as the first one, honestly. Like I rarely think about them separately. I think of it just as like one bulk sort of thing. But the fact that the first movie obviously started it all, it was just so fucking good.
Yeah.
And I will always appreciate that one just a tiny little bit more than the others because of that.
Also, all of them have a good soundtrack, but I still fairly frequently listen to the song Think by, I think their name is Collider, which is the song that plays in the nightclub when he's infiltrating it and he's just like slowly murdering the guards. And there's just like this like just awesome song playing in the background. I'm like, yes, it's good.
See, I personally really love the songs playing in, I think it's 2, where he has to go and kill you know, the dude comes to him and he's like, I need you to kill my sister. And then he goes to like that big party thing. The songs that they have playing there, fucking love. And I can't remember the artist's name, but I actually just started like listening to them like loads.
It's been a while since I've watched 2, so maybe I need to go back and watch it and see whether I love any of the music from that. But
like if you just listen to it while like you're watching him like moving through like the crowd and everything, like, oh man, it's just, it gives out such like it's just a vibe. I just can't put it any other way. It's just a vibe.
Now, I know there is a John Wick game. I think it's called John Wick Hex. It's made by Mike Biffle's company, which I want to say is called Biffle Games, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It's kind of like an isometric turn-based game. It looks quite fun. And I know that IO Interactive is making a James Bond game, which I'm insanely excited for. But IO Interactive really should get a John Wick game under their belt. They make Hitman, and there is one level in particular in Hitman 3. I played the Hitman trilogy like a year ago or so, and I was trying as much as possible not to change costume, just to make it more difficult for me. And there's one level where you have to infiltrate a nightclub, and there's like 8 assassins looking for your teammates, and you have to take out the assassins. And I was like, this feels so John Wick, and it's just fucking awesome, just like walking through the crowd of a nightclub while there's music just booming. It's like in like some weird old like silo in Germany, and then yeah, you just got a silence pistol just hidden underneath your jacket. Yeah, it's awesome. So there's probably a mod for Hitman which makes the character model look like Keanu Reeves, but yeah.
So I just looked it up, and it's so it plays during that scene, but also it's the ending theme as well, and it is called Plastic Heart by Cassandra Nostalgia, and it's so fucking good, honestly.
I'll have to give it a watch or listen.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I'll definitely watch the clip of it and then just listen to the song by itself, because it's just amazing.
Fair. So we talk about Marvel stuff now. There's so much Marvel stuff to talk about. We're going to go through most of it pretty quickly because there's so fucking much. Kevin Feige really just said, I don't care about the health of VFX artists. VFX artists be damned. Insert the Breaking Bad meme where he's like, I'm done when we're done when I say we're done. That's Kevin Feige to VFX artists. There's a lot. There's a lot to go through. What should we start with? Should we start with the easy, simple stuff?
We might as well just go in order, really.
Okay, well, this one might take a moment then.
Okay, maybe let's leave this one until, like, until
we know how long we've got left before an okay-sized podcast, and we go, Pete, you can only talk about this for 10 minutes. Like,
yeah.
Okay, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever had its trailer released. What do you think?
I honestly don't care for it, and I feel like it's partially just because I didn't like the first film. I really just don't have any sort of like. It looks okay. Like it looks like a film. That's about it from me. Like it just doesn't really appeal to me, for no particular reason.
I'm liking the vibes it's putting out more than the first one. Like it looks bigger in scope, which is pretty cool. I'm liking the kind of the emotion that they're putting behind it, with like a lot of the trailer is narrated by his mother, the queen, who I can't remember her character name, but the queen of Wakanda. And, you know, she's kind of like addressing the United Nations or something. She's like, how much more can you ask for me to give? Because I've already given you everything. Like it. So there seems to be quite a like thunderous emotional core to the film, which is pretty cool. The leaks about Namor have been correct. And I quite like it. Like, I know some people are really fucking hating the fact that they've redesigned Namor and they've moved him away from Atlantis. He's now, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a mythological Aztec underwater civilization, and he's from there instead now. I think, you know, fair enough, you want to differentiate it from Aquaman, even though Namor predates Aquaman. Ostensibly, the character is the same character, though you just moved them to a different culture and you've changed their aesthetics. As long as you make it work within the story, I think it looks cool. I like the character design. I think the one thing that is maybe a bit of a shame, potentially, I get why they're doing it, but like the trailer teasing the new Black Panther, I'm like, I almost wish that it wasn't about replacing Black Panther, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I mean, even on the trailer, like on or like the title card of the movie is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Wakanda Forever is way bigger than Black Panther, and I feel exactly the same. I almost feel like they just did Wakanda Forever,
Yeah,
and like just kind of got rid of Black Panther. Like, I don't even think it's necessary anymore.
I think the reason why it is necessary, which is kind of a crying shame about the state of superhero movies in general, is because Black Panther was so big for being basically the first lead black superhero, right? And so I understand that the Marvel Cinematic Universe does not want to get rid of him or get rid of that character, and just have a bunch of Wakandan characters who are still awesome in their own right, but they're not as big as Black Panther because they are the supporting cast of the previous film. They don't want them to be the, I don't know, like, basically we're getting some new Avengers films. Like, there's presumably going to be a Black Panther front and center of the Avengers, and it's not quite the same if it's M'Baku, because he's a side character. If M'Baku becomes Black Panther, or if Shuri becomes Black Panther, that's fine. But like the title of Black Panther is a big deal. But that's really the main reason why it's so important, is because there's like fuck all people of color superheroes. Like, it's getting better, but like You got Rhodey, who was a side character in Iron Man. He's finally getting his own thing in Armor Wars, although it wasn't on the slate. We'll talk about that later. You've got Sam is the new Captain America. Cool, like that's good. And I can't think of anyone else who's currently in the MCU who is a main character who is also a person of color. Miss Marvel.
And also, obviously, Riri Williams is coming.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, that's fair. But yeah, so it is kind of still a bit dire when it comes to representation. So I get them wanting to not settle for a side character who's just a side character. They're going to be taking on the supporting cast members and making them Black Panther. But at the same time, from a narrative perspective, it would be a bit like them going, who's the next Iron Man? Which is not what they did with Spider-Man, for instance. They went, no, you're not the next Iron Man. You're your own character in your own right. And
no,
look,
that's Ironheart.
But she's also her own character in her own right, to be fair. But she's very similar, and she is usually like the next generation of Iron Man, but still, or of the Iron Legion. Is that the right phrase for the team? I don't know. But yeah, so, and look, in comics, there are plenty of characters who do take over the mantle from other characters. Prime example of this is that one day, hopefully, the MCU is going to have Miles Morales be Spider-Man. And I'm totally down for that. So it might just be that I haven't read as much Black Panther comics, and therefore, to me, Black Panther is T'Challa, versus, in comparison, Spider-Man, to me, is both Peter Parker and Miles Morales. And okay, yeah, there are other Spider-Mans as well, but, like, those are the two Spider-Mans, because Miles Morales, to me, is as big as Peter Parker these days. But
I prefer Miles, honestly. I think he's just more enjoyable.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, I love Peter Parker, and I like Peter Parker in content, but we have so much Peter Parker content that Miles Morales is always just like a breath of fresh air, and he's also a really cool character in his own right. So hopefully we do get to see him in the MCU properly one day, and not just as like, I'm fine if they introduce him as a supporting character in a Tom Holland Spider-Man film, but I hope he gets to be a lead. And frankly, I'm fine if they both coexist in the MCU at the same time. That doesn't bother me if they do that, but yeah.
I honestly, well, I don't want Shuri or M'Baku to become Black Panther, but I also don't think they're going to. I think Okoye is more likely to become Black Panther, and honestly, I would prefer that.
I don't think it's going to be Okoye either. I can't remember her name. She's the kind of love interest who's not a love interest in Black Panther.
Storm.
No, but I did get the reference. Took me a moment, but I did get the reference. Nakia. I reckon it's most likely going to be Nakia because she's pretty prominent in the trailer. She was kind of the most substantial supporting cast member, I'd say, in Black Panther. And Okoye is kind of her own character in her own right, with quite a lot of iconography already. Like, Okoye appeared pretty prominently in Avengers, for instance, and like her battalion, her troop have appeared in other media. We recognize them pretty quickly. Nakia is not that, and Shuri has her gauntlet things and whatever. Nakia is kind of just a cool character, but like her taking over the Black Panther suit makes the most sense to me personally.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, the reasoning behind Okoye is because she is quite a big character and, you know, has played quite a big part. And like, another way I'm thinking about it is that T'Challa was already like a warrior. Like, obviously he was trained before he became Black Panther. And obviously Okoye is probably the next most skilled person in Wakanda. So if they wanted, you know, someone who was close to T'Challa and also just the roles in general, and also is just a major badass overall, plus also, isn't she like married to M'Baku?
No, she is married
or is that
to
someone else?
She is married to
Oh, she's married to the guy that's in all of Jordan Peele's movies.
yes, who's not going to be in this one.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll take away that reasoning. But yeah, I just think she'd be a very good candidate, and especially now.
Wakabi was his name.
Oh, well, especially now that, they basically lost their greatest warrior, why not just promote their next greatest warrior, Um, and another reason I don't think it's Shuri is because, again, like she might have trained in that, but we don't really get to see it. And also, she is more of the sort of like technologically intelligent one, and so I think it would be a bit of a leap for me to see her as Black Panther.
Also, there was a whole thing where she was like apparently making it really fucking difficult to film the fucking movie because she refused to comply with COVID regulations and would like spout misinformation on social media, and Disney apparently slapped her on the wrist multiple times. So if they had a chance to rewrite the film to make it not her, they probably would have taken that opportunity. Just my theory, but it might have originally been her, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's definitely not going to be her when the film releases.
Yeah, and again, M'Baku,
I
think
it would be cool for it to be him, but the shot we have of the new Black Panther is like the leg, and you see like the buttock and whatever, and it's like them crouched down. I'm like, that's not M'Baku's lower half. He is thicker than that. So,
but yeah,
he has got that cake, as the youth say, and.
But yeah, I think like. Yeah, the only thing that I'm kind of looking forward to is Namor, just because he's a new introduction, basically. And also, if it does become Okoye as Black Panther, I think I'd quite enjoy that. So
what
I don't know. I'm not gonna go into it just completely shutting it down. I'm still gonna watch it, like because now that it is taking a turn. And it's a completely different movie. Stuff's happened in universe that's changed things. Like it may not be the same as first movie, and also Killmonger isn't in it, so I won't be able to hate him. Yeah, I'm gonna go in hopefully with an open mind, and I'm not gonna go in hoping it's bad, because that's just self-sabotaging. But yeah, I like. It's one of those where I'm not overly excited, but I'll watch it.
What would your opinion be? I've seen this theory on the internet that it's going to be multiple people taking on the mantle of Black Panther.
I don't think they do that because why?
And also, I believe that the character being called Black Panther in the comics is a reference to this, but the Black Panthers is a thing, whereas Black Panther is skirting that line but isn't quite a thing. But the Black Panthers were like a civil movement that were, so.
Because Forrest Gump went to one of their Black Panther parties.
Yes. So yeah, I imagine we're not going to get a third Black Panther movie called The Black Panthers, is what I'm saying. But maybe. You never know. But
yeah. Also, isn't it like sacred that there can only be like one?
I don't know.
I mean, wasn't that the whole point of the first film? Was that they were selecting the next Black Panther, and it was like a sacred ritual for them to, eat the flower and then get high.
But both of them did it, so there's nothing stopping them. It might just be like a spiritual thing of being like, that's a no-no. But
I mean, I guess, but would they really break that spiritual thing?
But if
just for the sake of it?
But if Namor's gonna fuck over Wakanda, then maybe yeah.
I mean, that's
Another thing that's just worth noting real quick. Marvel leaks. It's becoming real hard to be on the internet with leaks coming from Marvel, because the tradition I have is, that sounds cool, I hope that's true, but I'm reserving judgment. But more, like, all of the Spider-Man leaks were correct. Well, not all of the Spider-Man leaks, but the big leaks of certain characters appearing in it were correct. Daredevil appearing in Echo and Kingpin appearing in Echo is correct. Daredevil getting his own show is correct. And Namor being in Black Panther is correct, and Namor's redesign is being correct. Those are like ones where I'm like, it's getting harder to be skeptical when when there appears to be like a pretty substantial leak in Marvel that seems to be on the money pretty much every single time at the moment. Like, like legitimately, like if some like absolutely batshit leak comes out at some point, I'm just going to be like, could be true though.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I hope the next leak is that Punisher's getting another show.
there was actually a leak about Punisher getting his own show recently, but it wasn't from the place that most of these leaks seem to be being reported from. So it could be true, but I think the leak. I think the leak was just Kevin Feige was like in contact with John Bernthal or something. Which, yeah.
I mean, it does make you wonder if maybe because they have so many fucking motor mouth actors out there, that they just start leaking this shit before the actors can get to it.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Tom Holland and Alfonso, Dr. Octopus.
Alfred Molina.
That's the one. God. I'm like, oh, my brain.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but also I've maintained that I think that like leaks are close to spoilers in the grand scheme of things. They're not that dissimilar, and I've maintained the theory for a while now that like big companies like Disney like spoilers because it encourages people to go consume their content quicker because they don't want to get spoiled. So leaks kind of are like that because you might be like, oh, well, these leaks sound insane. I have to go watch it to find out whether it's true, sort of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually have like an official leaks department at Marvel that are like, what can we leak that will stir the pot but not too much?
Yeah, I mean, and also like I'm just kind of thinking about it from a perspective of, okay, so we're gonna put this in the trailer anyway, but what can we release that seems like we wouldn't want them to know about it?
Oh, some blurry concept art of Namor, and he's now got an Aztec design. That will get some buzz on the internet, but like, we're gonna show it in the trailer anyways in a couple of months, so yeah.
Yeah.
She-Hulk.
You know what? I'm really fucking looking forward for this. Like, I think it actually looks really fun.
The VFX also looks substantially better this time around, which is nice. But yeah, no, I thought when they released the first trailer, I thought it looked fun, but I was iffy about the very iffy VFX, which apparently looked better if you watched it on Disney Plus's actual platform because there was less compression and what have you. But yeah, the VFX already looks better, and yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. There is a fourth wall break, which is a She-Hulk staple, which has made the interesting point that Deadpool is coming to the MCU, and obviously he fourth wall breaks as well. And it'll be, I really kind of want to see those two interact now, and both, like, one of them breaks the fourth wall, and the other one's like, you do that too? Like,
yeah, that's definitely going to be Deadpool, isn't it? Who like witnesses She-Hulk doing it.
I imagine him doing like a
yeah
sort of thing.
yeah.
Much quicker than that, but I'm wearing headphones and didn't want to send them flying across the room. But like, yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of hate towards the Hulk, and I've seen loads of posts saying how they've ruined the Hulk and it's a war crime what they've done to the Hulk and stuff like that. And I just don't get it. Like, I don't want to just see Hulk as a raging monster constantly. I get that, you know, it would have been good to maybe have got a film of him like that, you know, like in the MCU before they turned, well, exactly. But like another film is what people wanted, or, you know, Planet Hulk, for example, which they kind of did with Ragnarok.
And they could still do. Like, the thing is, as well, is like, I don't see any reason why they can't have Hulk go back to being a bit more of a rage monster, or introduce a new Hulk, probably not She-Hulk, but like, and people might get upset if they did this, but like, theoretically, if they introduced Amadeus Cho as a Hulk, there's no reason why he can't start off being a rage monster and then get to being more like he is in the comics, sort of thing. So
yeah, especially with the introduction of the Illuminati into the MCU, like it is a possibility. I don't think they will do it because,
and we're in the multiverse saga now, so you can just introduce a different Hulk and bring them in if you want. Like,
yeah, I mean, they could literally just make like like a series of it, you know?
Oh my
Like
god, they should totally bring back I can't remember the actor's name now. The guy who played him in the 2003 Hulk.
Ed Norton.
No, that was the 2008 Hulk. Come on, jeez, or 2009 Hulk. Jeez,
Eric Banner.
that's the characters. Oh no, you're right. Eric Banner plays Bruce
Yeah.
Banner. That's already always confused me. Yes, they should bring back Eric Banner as like a multiverse Hulk. That'd be fun.
That yeah,
And like
I would
full like
enjoy that.
cheesy, super bright green bad CGI as well. Like I would love that.
But yeah, like I personally don't get it. I don't want to see him like that constantly, and I just think, what do you do with that character if constantly he's just going batshit and destroying everything? You know, like
Mm.
I don't see how they can develop that character any further. I think the way they've taken him is much more interesting, seeing his like, I guess, evolution, really, you know, and becoming smarter and then kind of getting to a point where Hulk and Banner are at peace, and now he's passing on the torch to She-Hulk. And I think that is a better way of doing it, and I don't really understand where these people are coming from. But
And just like if he is at peace with the Banner and Hulk elements of his personality, and you know he doesn't get triggered into being a rage monster suddenly. Imagine that he goes up against Kang in like the next Avengers movie, and Kang does something to him that makes him go full Hulk mode again and lose control. You'll be like, as an audience member, you'll be like, oh shit, sort of thing. Like that's
yeah,
a big deal. So
I
I don't know.
mean, they could even go the route of like separating Banner from Hulk.
Hmm.
And then, you know, having that, like, Hulk is literally just this manifestation of rage that now no longer has that little annoying Banner in the back of his head, you know, trying to get him to calm down and shit. So I think that would be another interesting way to go. I just don't think they should write the character off just yet. And especially, I don't think they should be hating on the way he's gone, because I think if they had it their way, I don't think they'd like it,
Yeah,
personally.
the struggle with the MCU or any superhero franchise really is that most comic book properties, most superhero comic book properties have a cycle of nothing really ever changes. It's a bit like The Simpsons or any other like animated cartoon. Nothing really changes. The status quo resets every couple of years. You know, a character goes through a super dark, drug-riddled story in the 80s, and then in the 90s they're back to their quippy self, and then in the 2000s they're back to their edgelord self. I'm talking about Daredevil, you can't tell. And you know that happens, and it happens because different writers come on board, and you know, Spider-Man is forever late 20s-ish, except for the times when they bring him back to being a teenager and he marries Mary Jane, and then he's not married to Mary Jane anymore because they don't want him to be married to Mary Jane. And I do think, frankly, that comic books do need to let characters grow up a little bit. And I'm fine with them doing these big universe resets where they're going to do something like, we're currently in DC Rebirth. I don't know what Marvel's equivalent is, but DC Rebirth was a couple of years ago. Until the next universe reset event, let the characters grow up and change, and then just reset the status quo that way, like a hard reset. I'm fine with them doing that, but like the idea that Superman or Spider-Man can't be married and happy and have kids is kind of annoying, in my opinion, with comic books, but I get it. But movies, you wouldn't accept that as a movie audience member if their characters never truly grow or change. They need to grow and change because that's what we're used to with movie franchises and TV shows and such like. So they can't just stagnate. They can't just reset constantly. They have to change. They have to evolve. And with a character like Hulk, you're absolutely right. He has to develop. And you've had his own movie. Then you had the Avengers, where he went crazy. And it was a big deal. And then he helped during the Battle of New York. And then in Avengers 2, you had the Hulkbuster armor, because again, he went crazy. And then he helped with the Battle of Sokovia. And that's kind of all the crazy Hulk that we needed. And then Hulk for Ragnarok is, you know, a different take on Hulk, where he's more chill, but he's Hulk still. He's not Banner, but he's more chill as Hulk.
Yeah, because he's in his element. Like, he gets to smash constantly, you know? Like,
Not that kind of smash, though.
no.
I mean, maybe. We don't know. It was a kind
we
of...
don't know. We don't know what him and Valkyrie got up to before Thor got there.
Yeah, and it's a Jeff Goldblum planet. I feel like that's probably an orgy planet. But anyways. But yeah, so I do think, yeah, you're absolutely right. The trajectory. I think the only valid criticism that I've seen for it is that it's maybe a little bit of an unfortunate timing wise that we have Hulk be pretty zen and at peace with both sides of his personality, and then we're introducing She-Hulk, who is basically that from the get-go, but she might not be that in the show. And also, as you said, it's kind of him teaching her the ropes and showing her what he learned. But in the comics, traditionally, he's not in control of his two personalities, and she basically is. So, like, I do get that criticism, but wait till the show actually comes out and reserve judgment. So,
And I mean, I feel like people forget the fact that Banner doesn't actually like being the Hulk, right? Like he's never liked it. Like if he could get rid of it, he would. In fact, he tried multiple times, throughout the comics and stuff. Sometimes he succeeded, sometimes it went horribly wrong.
Fuck, in the Avengers and also in the deleted intro to the Incredible Hulk movie, he talks about the fact that he tried to commit suicide and that the Hulk spit the bullet back out. Like,
Yeah, like to have a character that just constantly hates who he is and what is lurking within him, for him to not have any development, it would suck just to see this character, like, because if that was the case, he would just be depressed the whole time. He just wouldn't want to do anything. In fact, if you want that type of Hulk, he would still be back in that like third world country or whatever where he was hiding out, because he wouldn't want to be in society. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Like he just wouldn't want to be in society. So like you have to have that development, because for him to still be there, he needs to come to peace with it and have this sort of understanding with the Hulk, because otherwise he just wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Now, the other thing with this trailer is that we're getting, I think his name is the Frog or the Toad. It's been a while since I've read those old Daredevil comics. We're getting a classic Daredevil villain who just wears a giant frog suit. And that's so fucking dope.
I mean, it could be Toad.
It's not Toad from X-Men. It's that's
character. What I mean. I doubt it's something related to the Toad name, because of obviously Toad and X-Men.
He's literally just called Frogman.
Frogman, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. With the introduction of the Frogman, we're getting closer and closer to Stiltman being a thing in the MCU, and I want nothing more than Stiltman to be in the MCU. I want specifically to build up to a point where Daredevil and Spider-Man have to face off against Stiltman, and they're just so fucking done with this dumbass wearing giant telescopic stilts, because that's basically every fight they have with him is just like, really, like, fine, we'll trip you up again. It's what we do. We wrap your legs up and you fall over and we put you in jail, and then you escape again and you build taller stilts and you walk around New York and we trip you up again. It's just like the biggest piss take character, and I really want to see him in the MCU.
See, like, if they are going down this route of introducing like just funnier like villains and stuff as well, I think it's so sad that they introduced Batroc earlier.
But he's still alive, isn't he?
He is, but like, I feel like it would be quite a change to see him go from like this sort of like more, I guess, militaristic sort of like not serious for really, but he didn't really have any funny moments. It was literally just him fighting and then leaping. Well, that's about it. Yeah. Like, I want to see him in full costume, just leaping about and like just being an arrogant prick, and and then just being kind of rubbish. Like, all he does is just he does all this crazy martial arts, but he just leaps all over the place. Like, I'd love to see someone just take him down, just like instantly, One of those villains where, it opens in the movie and he's like leaping through with like bags of money over his shoulders or something, and then a superhero just kind of puts his arm out and like,
I'm thinking the Arkham Origins fight against the Shocker. Not the Shocker, because that's a Marvel villain, the guy with the shot gloves. I can't remember his actual name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
But you know the fight I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like it hypes up as this big boss fight, and then it's just right click to counter, and you punch him in the face, and he's down.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen something like that, but I doubt we'll get that now.
Yeah, but and then the Daredevil might be in the trailer. So it might
Definitely is.
It might end with Daredevil a little bit. Look, I get to see him again in maybe less than a month, depends what episode he shows up in, but She-Hulk starts in 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. I'm so happy.
I'm happy for all the Daredevil fans out there.
And happy for yourself, because you're also a Daredevil fan, because you're a smart boy who is going to finish season 3.
I will, but I also do just feel very sad that he's in so many shows and everything, and is just getting put out there, and there's just not a single fucking word about the Punisher. It just really really depresses me.
I have to imagine they're doing something with those characters, and again, one of the leaks that to do specifically with Daredevil showing up in She-Hulk, and this was before the trailer. It said Daredevil's going to appear in She-Hulk. He's going to be looking for an old ally, rumored to be Jessica Jones. In fact, it was Mr. Sunday Movies who who attained this leak and put it out there. And Mr. Sunday Movies, pretty reputable. Not sure who their sources are, because they're not going to say, but they're pretty reputable as a platform. So the rumor is that he's going to be looking for an old ally, possibly Jessica Jones. So if Jessica Jones is showing up, and there has been no real talk about Kristen Ritter returning other than like rumors, then I would find it very surprising if they're not at least trying to get Jon Bernthal in the door. He might not be up for it, he might not be available, or he might not want to play in the MCU specific wheelhouse until they can prove that he can actually be the Punisher and let him do R-rated stuff and whatever. But like, we know that he loved that character and respected that character, so I'd be surprised if he would just be like hard no, never. And I'd be very surprised if Kevin Feige's like, I'm not interested in this amazing actor who is, world renowned for being superb at his job, coming back into our world. Like that just like, yeah.
Just very quickly going over the facts that I know, at least I think I know, is Jon Bernthal has said that he wants to return as Punisher. As you quite rightly said, he wants it to be the Punisher. He doesn't want it turned down or anything.
But I do want him to wear white booties if he's coming back. if we're forcing Daredevil to be in his red and yellow suit, I want Punisher in his white booties and gloves, goddammit.
I mean, that would be a pretty fun nod, but I don't think it will happen.
No, neither do I.
But yeah, like he wants to play him. He said he wants to play him again, as long as it's, the Punisher. We know that Deadpool is confirmed to still be rated R.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we know that they are open to doing R-rated things. Therefore, the Punisher could be R-rated. We also know that Matthew Cox has Charlie Cox has said that. Yeah, I know. I'm terrible. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Charlie Cox also came out and said that he would love for Jon Bernthal to return as a Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Feige has also said that the two characters he'd look at bringing back the most are Daredevil and the Punisher. So where is he?
He is a very busy man. Like, if you look at Jon Bernthal, what he's doing at the moment, he's in a lot of stuff. So like, it could literally just be that his availability is not available at the moment. And it's worth noting, Charlie Cox has done stuff since Daredevil season 3, but it was very publicly reported on that everyone involved in Daredevil thought there was going to be a Daredevil season 4. They were like, we're one of Netflix's most popular shows. We just had an amazing season 3. We're getting a season 4. And Charlie Cox apparently turned down job roles because he was like, I can't guarantee that I'll be available during that time. I'm going to be doing Daredevil season 4 at some point in the future. And then they cancelled it. So he lost out on work. John Bernthald's Punisher season came out months after literally everything else had been cancelled except for his show and Jessica Jones. They probably saw the landscape coming for them. You know, they probably saw that it was over quite a while before the show actually dropped. So he probably didn't reject jobs, and he has been working a lot since then. So it could literally just be that he's contractually wrapped up, and maybe Charlie Cox wasn't as wrapped up in contracts. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I do get it, but still, man, like I know a lot of people also like Jessica Jones, but Daredevil and Punisher were like the top two most requested to come back, with Jessica Jones shortly following after. And I just think it, like, he's got to come back if it's you know, in the next couple of years, if it's like 3 years, whatever. I just need confirmation that he will be back at some point. That is enough to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need. And just all these bloody rumors, well, you know, Daredevil is confirmed to be in multiple fucking shows. It's just, oh god, it really hurts my heart so
I appreciate
much.
it. But anyways, Daredevil. He's wearing his red and yellow suit, which is his traditional comic, well, not his traditional comic book suit. His traditional comic book suit is his red suit, but his original suit was red and yellow, and that's what he's wearing in this trailer. It is seemingly his Netflix costume, but recolored, which again adds credence to the fact that the Netflix shows are going to be canon. There's been this whole wibbly wobbly of whether any of the Netflix shows are canon, or whether they're all canon, or whether none of them are canon, or whatever. And one of the writers of Hawkeye was like, "You'll get your answer in the final episode," and the final episode did prominently feature Wilson Fisk's cufflinks, which are a plot point. They're his father's. They're featured prominently in Daredevil. So, like, according to that writer, they're canon, but at the same time, there's been still a lot of people going like, "There's no way they're going to make them canon. They're R-rated. You know, they do somewhat reference the movies, but only very like, I think they call it something like the event or something. They refer to the Battle of New York, like they're really vague about it. But he's wearing his Netflix costume, but red and yellow, which I would imagine if they were going to just be completely new continuity, you would just give him a completely new suit, right? Like, Disney has the money to build a completely new suit. Presumably, they did build a completely new suit for this show, because I imagine recoloring a suit's probably more difficult than just building one from scratch, but it's the same design as the Netflix suit from what we can see. So I'm hoping that means that it is the same continuity, because I'm happy to get Daredevil back, but I don't want to have lost 3 seasons and a bit, because Defenders worth of storytelling for Matt to reset it to a new continuity. That just seems like a waste to me. I also hope that he gets rid of that red and yellow suit as soon as possible, because I fucking hate the red and yellow suit. I hate it in the comics, and I hate it in what we see in She-Hulk, but I get it.
It's cool we get to see it, but it's pretty fucking gross.
Yeah, exactly. There are some people who love that suit, so it's cool that they get it, but I want it gone as soon as possible. So hopefully, again, according to leaks, he's going to be wearing an all-black suit a la the Shadowlands suit in Echo, which, okay. Can we just get like a proper red devil suit? Like, the Netflix suit's okay, particularly the season 2 version. I quite like the helmet to that, but I want like a proper red Daredevil suit, not a red and black one.
I mean, to be fair, I'm just excited to see him back in a suit.
That's true. I mean, I really like the black suit. I don't get me wrong, the season 1/season 3 suit. I really like it, but and for plot reasons, it makes sense why he doesn't wear it in season 3. But also, like, it would be like keeping Tom Holland in the Homecoming self-made suit for like all 3 of his movies. It'd be like, come on, just get him in an actual Spider-Man suit. So
yeah.
But
I think it would make sense actually for him to be seeking out Jessica Jones, like, because obviously now that Kingpin you know, has already appeared and whatever, obviously there's a lot of like theories going around saying that Daredevil was blipped but Kingpin wasn't, and so now Kingpin's or Daredevil's got back, and he's like, lots changed and he doesn't really understand what's going on. He needs leads and everything, and obviously Jessica Jones being private investigator can get him those leads.
Mhm.
So I could see that happening.
Yeah. I also I don't know whether She-Hulk's been confirmed where it's set, but it looks to not be set in New York to me. At least not all of it set in New York, because they're like on a tropical island or whatever at one point in the trailer. I'm wondering whether it might be set in California, in which case potentially in San Francisco. And Daredevil has at multiple points in his comic run lived in San Francisco, so maybe he moved to San Francisco and came back to New York because he heard about a superhero who needed legal representation or something. But like, yeah, potentially he's not dealt with Kingpin because he's not in the city anymore. Now, I will say again, I'm sure there are plenty of people who like him in San Francisco because he's done it in the comics. I hate him being in San Francisco in the comics because he's a New York superhero. Like, so much of his identity is that he's a New Yorker and he cares about New York. So to then just be like, I'm moving to San Francisco to date Black Widow. I'm like, but you wouldn't though. But anyways, yeah, I think the show looks cool. But it looks so much cooler because Daredevil's, which is, I think, it's a bit of a shame that they felt the need to market Daredevil being in the trailer just to potentially get more people to watch it, because I feel like they should just be able to market it on its own merits, but still.
I would still like for them to bring back. I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot, and I don't want to get into it again, but I would still like for them to bring back all of the Defenders. Luke Cage more than any of them. I still think there's a lot more they could do with that character, and I know a lot of people. Well, yeah, and like I know a lot of people weren't that fond of Luke Cage. I personally really enjoyed it, and I think there is a side to the sort of setting that character is in. I think is really interesting, and I still think there's a really good basis for Heroes for Hire, which I think would be really cool to see. And also they can redeem Iron Fist, which would be bloody amazing.
Or multiverse, recast him if you need to. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if they do, to be frank. Like, I think it would be cool to actually get Finn Jones to be at a point where he can play Iron Fist's prowess properly. But, like, if you can't, or you can't get him back, to be honest with you, I would dislike if they recast Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or Punisher.
Mike Coulter, is that his name? Mike Coulter is
perfect for that role.
Fucking Luke Cage. Like,
yeah.
I genuinely could not imagine like any other actor playing him. He fits it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. And Finn Jones, I think, again, we've talked about this before, so we'll just kind of briefly mention it. When he's written well, i.e. in Luke Cage Season 2, he does a good Iron Fist, Danny Rand.
Yeah.
But I'm not... I don't need him to be back as Iron Fist as much as I need the others to be back as their characters. And I also think there was this whole thing when Iron Fist was announced and they announced it was Finn Jones playing Danny Rand, where people were like, look, I know he's white in the comics, but could have cast an Asian American actor to play him because it's a bit of a cultural appropriation story in the comics anyways, and like...
Change him to Donnie Yen.
Sure. But yeah, so like, in fact, I don't know if you remember this because it's such a... I don't remember the character's name, but there's like a drunken master that he fights briefly in Season 1 who's like guarding a facility somewhere. That was someone who went up to play Finn Jones, and like he's a phenomenal actor and martial artist, but they wanted to cast a white guy because that's what Iron Fist is in the comics. And it's like, frankly, like there are some characters where their race is important to the story. Danny Rand ain't it, really. Like, it doesn't matter. So
I mean, I think there is an argument you can make that it does, because
it's important that he's American. It's not important that he's white, I don't think.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I can definitely see some people's reasonings for why it would be important. I personally wouldn't really care that much, but like I kind of see it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the best thing they could do with Iron Fist is get a couple of writers in one room, get them really high, and have them write it that way,
Or
because then like Danny will definitely have that chill, relaxed vibe, and also just imagine the crazy shit they could come up with all the martial arts. I think that would be amazing.
it's also worth noting, talking about potentially having an Asian American Iron Fist, that the current Iron Fist in the comics is Asian American. He was introduced a couple of months back, but there is a new Iron Fist in the comics who is not Danny Rand. So, you know, if they wanted to do a new Iron Fist property, they could just do the new character, who I don't know the name of, but so, yeah. Because I do think there is an argument to be made of, let's not change the race or sex of existing characters, but just create new characters who can take on the mantle, because again, going back to Miles Morales, he's an amazing Spider-Man in his own right. There are some people who are dismissed and just go, oh, it's just a race change Spider-Man. No, he's his own character in his own right, but he's also Spider-Man. You can do that with other characters as well. So, yeah, if you wanted to have a Asian American Iron Fist, it doesn't have to be an Asian American Danny Rand. So,
I also really want to see him come back so that he can interact with Deadpool, and then we get Dead Fist, where Deadpool gets the Iron Fist.
or Fist Pool. No, Dead
Fist.
Iron Pool. There we go. That would be what it would be the other way around.
Nah, that would be Iron Man. That would be Deadpool in the Iron Man armor.
Okay. Cool. I Am Groot.
It looks okay. Like I still am a bit skeptical about how they can make I mean, I guess it is just a mini series, but
It's a bunch of
I'm
animated
skeptical.
shorts for kids, basically, is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. It looks fine, I guess.
I'll watch it.
I'll probably enjoy it, but it like
It's not
the
going to be
idea
game
of-
changing for me.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of having a character that only says 3 words throughout the whole series is, I mean, I feel like you're relying very heavily on the comedy factor of those 3 words.
Yeah, like would you watch a show called Grogu where it's just Grogu without the Mandalorian? Just
No.
hanging about? I mean, I probably would, but also like I'd be like, just give me the Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
Do you think Vin Diesel is actually voicing Groot anymore, or do you think they've just got enough lines at this point? Like, do you
If
think
they
he's
are
coming into the studio anymore? Or do you think they just go, here's your paycheck for us to use your recorded voice lines?
If he is, and they're still paying him extra for doing it, I would say, what the fuck are you doing, Marvel? Stop wasting your fucking money. Like, because that would just be ridiculous.
Mhm.
I really hope they're just recycling lines now.
Also, do you think that, because the trailer, I don't know if he's going to be different ages throughout the shorts, I imagine he's probably going to be Baby Groot for all of it, but do you think that's Baby Groot before he met Rocket, or do you think that's Baby Groot in between Guardians 1 and Guardians 2? Or potentially between Guardians 2 and Thor Ragnarok? No. Avengers. Infinity War.
I think it's in between.
Okay.
In
which case, you think the Guardians might potentially show up?
Maybe. It's a possibility. I think
Maybe like a CGI Peter Quill boot like steps into frame at one point, and then some other actors' hands pick up Baby Groot because they're not gonna bring in Chris Pratt to shoot that one scene. It's gonna be like how Superman appears in all DC properties, DC EU properties at the moment, where it's like, how can we have Superman be here but not have Henry Cavill be here?
I think if anyone was going to show up, I think it probably only would be one of the Guardians, and I think it would be Rocket.
Yeah.
Because it looks obviously very animated, and obviously Rocket is animated. So I could see that being the case. I also don't think it would be before Guardians, because we haven't really learned much about Groot's origins. And obviously it's quite big in the comics, really. I mean, he's literally a race of tree gods, you know, like, so I feel like they'd want to do something a bit more than just a mini series full of
wacky, zany, silly adventures.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but
right. We've been going for a while now. Let's rattle through the next couple. Let's try.
Mhm.
Secret Invasion.
Pretty hyped. I think it's going to be good.
Seems pretty early to do it. Like, seems like it's happening fairly soon, but I'm down for it.
I also don't. Obviously, there are ways they can do it, but with a lot of the original Avengers dead or retired now, and not really any other heroes that kind of overlap anymore, and are, obviously kind of new to the franchise and everything. I don't know how they're going to go down the route of, oh, these heroes are actually Skrulls,
Mhm.
I feel like they may not even do that. I think it may just be like regular humans that are Skrulls,
Yeah.
maybe. So I'm a bit skeptical, but I'm excited to see what they do with it.
We know that Kobe Smulders is returning as Murray Hill for the show, so I'm imagining that it might be like more, almost like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, but with Skrulls being secretly members of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then have a couple of the big superheroes come in, like maybe have Sam as the new Captain America, because he would fit fairly neatly with like a S.H.I.E.L.D. story, but probably not Tom Holland as Spider-Man, for instance. So
Yeah, I also think it's kind of risky them doing it if they do make some superheroes Skrulls, because it can kind of like write off their characters a little bit. But we'll see. I'm excited to see where they go with it.
Also, real quick, just popping back to She-Hulk, did you notice that there was a Johnny Blaze poster in the trailer?
What?
Yeah, there's this. Was it? Yeah, it was She-Hulk. It's in one of the scenes with Wong. There's a poster in like the bottom left corner of saying Johnny Blaze on it. Yeah,
I need to rewatch.
or just Google it if you want to see the screenshot. But also, Ryan Gosling has apparently said he would be interested in playing Ghost Rider, and Kevin Feige's response to that was, if Ryan Gosling wants to join the MCU, we should talk to Ryan Gosling about joining the MCU. So,
I think he'd be a perfectly fine Johnny Blaze, honestly.
yeah.
I mean, I kind of had a look through actors, and I was thinking of like who else I would maybe want to play Ghost Rider, and there's not many. I think I said in chat maybe the other day who I might wanted to play him, but I can't remember. I kind of keep casting this person, and I haven't seen many of, well, if any of his films really, but just the way he looks, at least I go off of. I think Scott Eastwood would make a pretty good
Yeah.
Johnny Blaze.
But it would also continue the trend of Ryan Gosling playing characters with cool jackets, because that's like a thing Ryan Gosling does, is just play characters with cool jackets that men want to buy. So, but yeah, so there is a little Johnny Blaze Easter egg. I don't think that necessarily means that Johnny Blaze is going to show up in She-Hulk, but it's probably just an Easter egg in the same way that like you had in Daredevil, for instance, there's the Victor v. Creel poster, but Creel never actually shows up in Daredevil. So it's the same sort of thing. Did I just say Victor v. Creel? I meant Murdoch v. Creel, but yeah. Anyways, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's a coming. It looks it sounds good. James Gunn has said that it will be a change in tone from the previous two, and that it will explore the origins of Rocket. And he, more recently than that, said that Rocket is one of the most tragic characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we have to tell his story before we finish off the Guardian story. So
that actually kind of lends me hope that I know I said a little while ago about in the Guardians comics where, he's basically dying, and he goes off and like, because he doesn't want his friends to basically, pity him and be there to die, or like to see him die or whatever. So like, I think that would be really interesting, especially if, it is Rocket maybe coming to the end of his lifespan, because of like his cybernetics and everything, and augments that are basically just sapping his life force.
yeah,
I think that would be quite interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, and I think James Gunn continues to deliver, frankly. So I'm excited for it.
Interesting to see what they're doing with Adam Warlock as well.
Very true. Also, I don't think they had the holiday special on the slate, did they? It's coming this year, isn't it? Or is it next year's Christmas?
I completely forgot about it, honestly.
There is a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special coming at some point, but I don't think it was on the slate. But then there are things missing from the slate. There are noticeable gaps when it comes to Phase 6, but there are also just things that are presumably not Phase 6. For instance, where is Armor Wars? Well, where is Armor Wars? Because the writer had to go on Instagram and be like, yo, yeah, we're still making the show. Because it just wasn't anywhere at Comic-Con. And there are some people theorizing that the person making the graphic just forgot to put Armor Wars on there. Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, there is a holiday special coming. I can't remember if it's this year or next year, though. I think it's this year, but I'm not 100%. So,
I mean, it was announced quite a while ago, so
yeah,
I would imagine it is. But we also haven't like heard anything about it recently.
No.
So I feel like they'd have to drop like a trailer or something soon if it is releasing this year.
Well, if it's a holiday special releasing this year, they probably won't drop a trailer until like early November because they'll want it to be like the Christmas spirit sort of thing. So
maybe, yeah.
Echo. Hold on, sorry. Echo. I accidentally pressed the swear button after that. That was a dumb joke. Not really anything new announced in there. There were release dates for all this stuff, but we didn't put the release dates in our Discord, so they're coming. You can find it out on the internet. The main thing that I took from Echo is that they confirmed that Charlie Cox is returning as Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio is returning as Kingpin, which was, again, leaked and also very predictable because there's such prevalent characters in Echo's story in the comics. And Echo is a character in her own right who does have her own story, but her origin is so intertwined with those two characters that I don't see how you do an origin TV show without those two characters, basically. So, but yeah, other than that, I don't think they showed anything. They didn't like show any stills, but they think they've finished filming it, I want to say. But yeah.
I mean, anything with cool sort of martial arts, fight scenes and everything I'm into, so.
And I really hope that at one point, like Daredevil and Echo are like interacting, and it's revealed that Kingpin's still alive after being shot in the head, and Daredevil says, "It's the person I've been worried about this whole time, Kingpin."
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was so bad.
Loki Season 2. I think they finished filming Loki Season 2 now. Nothing else really coming out of it. There's been some like leaked behind-the-scenes photos of Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston on set together, which is cool to have it 100% be confirmed Owen Wilson's back, because I wouldn't want it any other way. I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Season 1. That's kind of my takeaway of that. I
am curious where they're going with it now that the TVA is practically defunct and Kang isn't it?
No, because at the end Loki's in a different universe where the TVA is still functioning. Where they're panicking, but they're still around.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, you should go back and watch the very last 2 minutes of the final episode. It's like he runs up to it's not Morbius. I want to say Morbius, but it's Mobius. God damn it. Yeah. Morbius has rotted my brain.
It's Mobin time.
He runs up to Mobius and he's like, "Yo, the TVA, Kang, And he's like, okay. Who are you?" And then it like pans out and you've got, rather than the statue of like the three Time Watchers or whatever they were called, you've instead got 3 statues of Kang. So like he's no longer he's not secret in that version of the TVA, and the TVA are panicking because the universe is branching out, but they're still around. They're not all dead or anything. So yeah.
Even still, I'm curious because obviously Kang is going to be the villain in, I guess, a couple of different films.
Definitely, and I would assume, just a wild guess here, probably the villain in Avengers, the Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I don't know why I'm kind of getting that vibe.
Yeah. So I feel like I feel like Kang is a cool character, and I'm kind of excited to see the havoc he can wreak.
Hmm.
I don't want him in just everything, though.
No,
Like, I don't want them to completely overdo him. And if he's going to be a villain in the Kang Dynasty and also Ant-Man, I don't really want the second season of Loki to also be about Kang.
agreed.
Um,
They're obviously going to have to deal with some elements of Kang because the immediate
mm,
aftermath of season 1. But yeah, I don't want him to be the main villain of Loki season 2.
yeah. Um,
What I am curious about though is so season 1 of Loki really like is I mean, to be fair, pretty much all of the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows except for maybe Moon Knight, because that was fairly detached from the MCU intentionally, but the rest of them have been pretty important to the overall story. You've got the introduction of Wanda getting the Darkhold and her children, like that's a big deal for Doctor Strange 2. You've got Sam Wilson becoming the new Captain America, that's a pretty fucking big deal. And then you've got Miss Marvel being introduced, and have you seen Miss Marvel?
I still haven't. I still really keep meaning to, but
You
like,
need to watch it, man, because there's some big stuff that I want to talk about that I can't talk about until you've watched it. They
shit.
swing big in the end of that show. It's also a fun show. It's not an amazing show. It's probably on the lower end of my Disney Plus Marvel shows overall because of how they handle the villains. But the first 3 episodes are so fun. Like the first 3 episodes, I really can't criticize. It's just after that where it starts to, when it becomes bigger in scope, I guess it starts to waver a little bit. But it's still fun. And yeah, the end has 2 very big things happen in it. So
I did hear that there's something about the Marvels.
mm.
Miss Marvel. Is it the names? Something Rambo.
Monica Rambeau.
I was thinking Monica Rambo, but then I was thinking, am I thinking of Monica like the assistant to MODOK? And I was like, so yeah, and then obviously Carol Danvers. So I heard there's going to be something about them. I think that might even be a show at some point.
So there is the Captain Marvel sequel film is called The Marvels, and it will feature Monica Rambeau as a Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers as a Captain Marvel, and Kamala Khan as a Miss Marvel. So all 3 of those are going to be like share the spotlight in that film. So that's been announced. That's, I think, phase 5, I want to say, like late phase 5, so 2 or 3 years away. But yes, that's coming. But there is something that hints towards that. But then there's also something very, very, very big that you will lose your shit over, because I lost my shit over it. But my point is that all of the Disney Plus shows except for Moon Knight have had very big swings for the universe, and that's not to say that Moon Knight's not worthwhile watching or anything. It's just it's intentionally a little bit more separate than the rest of them. Loki, though, is possibly, in my opinion, the biggest, because they've officially announced that this phase is called the multiverse. Or not this phase. This saga is now called the multiverse saga. So we had the Infinity Saga. This is the multiverse saga, and Loki was the first thing to do something with the multiverse, and in a very big way, and introduce the villain of this saga. Like, that's big for a TV show. So I'm really curious to see what season 2 does in terms of the meta plot of what's going on in this saga, because presumably it's going to be equally as big.
I also don't actually think that Kang is going to be as big a villain as people think in Ant-Man, because I like now with the confirmation of MODOK being an Ant-Man, which I'll talk more about when we get to it. I think they'd leave Kang more as sort of like, okay, yeah, he does a couple of things in the movie which makes things more difficult, but MODOK might be one of his, like, sort of like
I could see it potentially being a sort of situation where they are about to defeat MODOK at the end of the film, and then maybe Kang's appeared early in the film, but he comes in and just obliterates MODOK, and then he's like, I'm the big bad now, and you're not going to win, and then that's kind of just how the film ends.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the way they're going to go, simply because I trust Marvel. They've done some things in the past that haven't turned out exactly how I expected it to, but they've never really done anything that I just full on hated or just, that just didn't work.
For Love and
really.
Thunder.
Uh,
I also don't actually. I wasn't that impressed by it, but I don't hate it. I was just being controversial for the sake of being controversial.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in the media consumed anyway, even though it wasn't in the week. But
in the month.
yeah. But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I trust Marvel enough for them to not oversaturate the saga with Kang. I think they will leave him until like the end to be the biggest nuisance. And because of that, I can see them having him in Ant-Man as just a very minor secondary antagonist, simply because if people haven't seen Loki, they need to introduce him into the movies.
I also wouldn't be surprised if they do something somewhat similar to Loki, where he's not a villain in Ant-Man. And then maybe he is at the very end, but it's a different one, or it's the same one and he turns villain, or whatever. But, like, not all of the Kangs are going to be Kang the Conqueror, or at least they won't all start that way. I mean, again, Loki very much lays out that he starts off as a benevolent good guy who is trying to protect the universe. So it's entirely possible we'll see that version of Kang in Quantumania, and then maybe the events of Quantumania turn that Kang into Kang the Conqueror. That being said,
could also be a case.
That being said, it's worth noting there is a leak, and this is like an official confirmed leak because it's like recorded audio from Comic-Con, like behind closed doors. They showed a little bit of Ant-Man, and it included. I've seen the transcript of it. I haven't listened to the audio because I don't want to spoil myself, but I saw this in a tweet that there is an interaction between Scott Lang and Kang in the little bit of footage they showed where Scott Lang says, "I'm an Avenger," and Kang responds, "I'm a Conqueror." So probably at least one version of Kang, if there are multiple, is going to be Kang the Conqueror. So, but yeah. We kind of talked about Ant-Man. We jumped ahead, haven't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
Last thing I'll say on Ant-Man, and then I guess we can get back on the track, is that Peyton Reed has said that also it's a bit of a tone change compared to the last two, similar to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 from the sounds of things. So
yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, honestly. I mean, it could be good, but I also like the fact that Ant-Man has always stood out to me. I know Ant-Man isn't everyone's favorite. In fact, most of people's lists would have him pretty far down on it. I personally really love Ant-Man. The first and second film, I personally really liked the second one. I thought Ghost was an awesome villain. And Ant-Man always stood out to me, but, well, primarily because it's Paul Rudd, and I just love Paul Rudd in pretty much anything. But his just character, like, he is funny without being, like, quippy, which I think a lot of characters in the MCU, like, they aren't like that, really. Like, it was the first thing besides, I guess, Guardians of the Galaxy that was based on Earth with all this terrible stuff happening around them, and they found like a little family story, with like just purely funny, heartwarming characters like Luis, and I love that about the character. And if it is going to be such a shift in tone where it's going to be kind of more dark and gritty, depressing, I mean, that might not be the tone they are shifting towards.
I think it'll be darker, but I imagine
is.
there's still going to be comedy.
I really hope so, because that is the thing I love about it.
Particularly because one of the things that they also kind of announced from it is that where Scott Lang is starting this film is that he's kind of a pariah from his family and the other Avengers, because he like wrote a book, started doing a podcast and whatever, and he's kind of like just like farming that celebrity status, and like he's kind of, they haven't said this, but it kind of sounds like he's going to start off being a bit of a prick and then have to come back to actually being a hero. Which that sounds like it's got comedic value there.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna basically go like, what if we did Ant-Man a woo-woo, but it was BoJack Horseman, and he's just gonna be the most depressing fucking character ever.
Please no.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, to be frank. I might be opposed to it in the sense that it wouldn't fit the universe, but also I'd kind of love to see a superhero who's basically got BoJack's complex. That'd be pretty fucking funny. Get Will on it to play it, though.
if you're gonna do that, then they should have just had Pym be the first Ant-Man in the first Ant-Man film, and then have him be like the depressed alcoholic like he usually is in the comics, and then introduced Scott Lang, and then change the shift that way. But I don't know. But yeah, the rest of Ant-Man, like, just on a whole, I'm really excited, especially because MODOK is confirmed.
Yeah.
I love MODOK. I think he's a great villain. I'm a little disappointed to hear that he's not just going to have a massive head and instead it's just going to be like a robot face.
Ow. That's a shame.
I feel like, why are you doing that? Are you just trying to change him into
Zemo?
It's not Zemo, is it?
Well, that's the first person I thought of is no, not Zemo.
Baron Zemo is...
Yeah, no, not Zemo.
Obviously.
The other guy.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about, the Nazi scientist dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, just... Why can't you just give him a big head? What's the problem?
Particularly because they already had a guy who had a big head. It was that guy in Hulk who got the Hulk serum dripped into a cut on his head, and his brain started to swell. They did that in 2009 or 2010.
Yeah.
But the other thing...
I'm still excited for him.
The other thing I'll say, they've announced that Cassie Lang will be... is it Stature? Is that her superhero name? So she's going to be in it. The poster features her in an Ant-Man suit. It's a new actress, so it's not the actress who played Cassie Lang in Endgame, and I don't really feel strongly one way or another about that because we barely saw anything of that actress portray Cassie Lang, so I don't know if she was going to be amazing or fine or whatever. But I will say, it's the one casualty that I am still not quite over from the snap from the 5-year jump in Endgame is that the actress of Cassie Lang in Ant-Man 1 and 2 is so fucking hilarious with Paul Rudd that I'm like, you've got big shoes to fill, whoever's playing an older Cassie Lang. Like, yeah, so that would be tough to trump. Also, did she still have her pet giant ant during that 5-year gap?
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope so.
So many questions. But I think that's actually also an interesting plot point is, Ant-Man or, Scott was gone for the full 5 years, even though he wasn't snapped. And so, yeah, Cassie's grown up. He missed 5 years of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's definitely going to be some things to do with that. And I think that kind of feeds into what you were saying about him kind of being like
a douchebag.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't know that she was announced for this film until Comic-Con, but she's another candidate for the Young Avengers because she'd be around about 15 or 16 based on how old she was in Ant-Man 2. She looks older in Endgame because they cast like a 20-something-year-old actress probably, but she's supposed to be like in her mid-teens based on how old she was in Ant-Man 2, 5-year jump. So, yeah, prime candidate for Young Avengers. If they're doing that, which everyone theorizes they're doing it, but they haven't announced it. But they have registered the IP, but they would be registering every IP to make sure that people don't scalp the IPs. So, Blade. Oh, sorry, 3L. That's kind of like a weird T, and like a backwards C, and then 3 lines.
Again, really fucking hyped for Blade. That's
so
probably
hyped for Blade.
That's probably like, yeah, I'd say that's the film I'm most hyped for by far. It's just like, oh man, I cannot wait. And I think they've like cast the perfect actor for it outside of Wesley Snipes, obviously, but
Mahershala Ali is a phenomenal actor in everything he's in, and yeah, I can't wait to see him do Blade. I also hope, now that we've gotten confirmation that Deadpool 3 will be R-rated, Blade should probably be R-rated. It could feasibly not be, compared to Deadpool 3, which can't really feasibly not be, but it should be R-rated. That's where it belongs, so yeah.
I really fucking hope we get a line similar to "motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill" or something like that.
I genuinely want, just because it will confuse audiences so fucking much, I want original Blade. I want Mahershala Ali to play original Blade, not post Wesley Snipes' portrayal of Blade, because before Wesley Snipes played
What,
Blade,
Disco Blade with the afro?
no, I was thinking Victorian Blade, where he's basically just fucking Van Helsing.
Oh. No, I want Disco Blade.
There. But yeah, I'm so excited for it. No actual footage or like photos or whatever shown from it, but I'm so my body is ready. Also, it was his voice. Was it confirmed it was his voice? It was definitely theorized heavily, but I don't know if it was ever confirmed. It was his voice at the end of Eternals talking to Dane Whitman. So
I didn't even pick up on that when I watched it. I'm pretty sure it was you that told me afterwards, and I was like,
yeah, I don't
"Oh."
know if it was ever confirmed or whether it was just people saying it was, but either way, if it was him, then potentially we'll be getting Black Knight in the film, which I think would be awesome, but I also don't want Black Knight to detract from Blade being front and center.
Yeah. As much as I also don't want Blade to detract from Black Knight's first appearance.
That too, yeah, it's kind of a mutual thing. But if he's maybe just got like a small role where we see a little bit more of a progression towards it, and then he gets his own film potentially in Phase 6 in one of those empty slots, then that'd be dope. Although he might not have time, because supposedly there's a Jon Snow TV show in development at HBO.
Oh,
That's going to be set after Game of Thrones. So
brilliant.
Ironheart, not much to say, but we saw her briefly in the Black Panther trailer. I hope she's cool. That's my take. I don't know a lot about Riri Williams in the comics, but
I think she's meant to be like the smartest person in ever.
I thought Shuri was supposed to be the smartest person in ever.
Until Riri Williams comes about.
And they're going to be in the same film together, so maybe there'll be some competition there.
Well, definitely, especially seeing as they are up against the dumbest man alive, or the dumbest man on Earth with Mr. Fantastic.
They're not up against him, what?
No, I mean like the competition.
Oh, right.
Obviously, of who the.
At first, I thought you were saying that Namor's the dumbest man alive, and I was like, you take that back.
No, Mr. Fantastic.
Just because a man has sex with fish doesn't make him a dumb man. I genuinely don't know whether Aquaman has ever been depicted getting into romantic relationships with fish. Namor has been depicted getting into relationships with fish people. Like, that's a thing in the comics. So
I hope we also get to see Namor trying to rescue a dolphin and then having it fly out the front.
I mean, there is a like dumb poster going on the internet which is called the Aquavengers, and it's the deep killer shark from Suicide Squad, Aquaman, and Namor in a film together, and I would pay for that.
Yeah, that would be good.
Agatha, Coven of Chaos. I mean, I'll watch it, but I don't know whether I care about this particularly. I mean, I liked Agatha Harkness in WandaVision, but I don't know if I would like her enough to watch a show dedicated to her, other than I will because I'm a Marvel shill and will just consume their content. But I might decide that I don't like it and stop watching it halfway through if it's not for me. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it can be interesting. Like, I think obviously now that they're kind of introducing like magic and sorcery a lot more, obviously with Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness and stuff, and kind of looking into the background behind Scarlet Witch and, you know, the sort of like prophecies and stuff about that. I think there is some like definitely interesting lore they can delve into, but at the same time, I am curious when it's going to be set. I don't know if it's going to be after obviously she got trapped in the town,
The
or
subtitle makes it sound like it's set during like the Salem witch trial sort of era, doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, that was my takeaway.
in yeah, and that was going to be the other one, which
A
I'm
witch.
not so yeah. Fuck no. Uh, yeah, I'm not so sure on because again, she's a villain. Like I'm always skeptical when they make series like dedicated around villains. Obviously, I wasn't so skeptical about Loki.
But
What?
also Morbius is peak
Yeah,
cinema. Morbius. It's about a villain.
he's but he's an anti-hero
Also,
mostly
real quick,
sometimes.
did you hear that Aaron Taylor Johnson has now said, "Oh, Craven will hunt people,
I'm
not
I'm
people hunt animals. Craven's a
I'm
hunter." And
I'm getting to it.
okay,
I'm saving that until the media are consumed.
okay,
Um, but yeah, like I'm curious what they're gonna do with it, just because I'm always skeptical of series and films being based solely around a villain because I just don't really know what they can do with it, and also we kind of already got her backstory. So is it just gonna be her doing villainous shit? Like I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do, but
it's
it
just,
could be interesting.
it's just her gonna be talking about the benefits of anarchy, Coven of chaos.
I mean, that would be pretty sweet. I'd enjoy that.
What if season 2? We already knew that was coming. X-Men '97. We already knew that was coming, but we got to see some artwork of it, which it looks like the X-Men '97 TV show, which is cool. Apparently, Xavier will not be the leader of the X-Men in the new show. Instead, it will be Magneto leading the X-Men, which is interesting. And it is a continuation of that TV show, so presumably, yeah, that's got some interesting stuff. I'm kind of rattling through these. Did you want to say anything about either of those two? Because if not, I'll just
Nah.
plow through. Spider-Man Freshman Year is an animated TV show was featuring Spider-Man. Tom Holland has not been confirmed to be playing Peter Parker yet, so we don't know who's voicing Spider-Man yet. My guess would be if they can't get Tom Holland, which they probably can't, it's going to be the guy who voiced him in that one episode of What If, because he did a pretty decent job. It's set in the Marvel Cinematic. This was very confusing because they announced it ages ago and they said it's set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and it will explore the origins of Spider-Man. And then the stuff that they showed, people were like, he's meeting Doc Ock and Norman Osborn and Daredevil, but Doc Ock and Green Goblin didn't exist in the MCU until No Way Home, and he didn't know. And so they've now come out and said, yeah, it's set in an alternative universe, but within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so just another parallel universe, where rather than Tony Stark coming to visit Peter Parker one day, Norman Osborn comes to visit Peter Parker one day.
That's pretty fucking cool. I
Yeah.
like the sound of that.
A lot of villains have been shown as well. We're getting Amadeus Cho, who's not a villain, but he's been shown. He's coming into the show. We're getting, let's say, Doc Ock and Norman Osborn. We're getting Scorpion. We're getting I'm pretty sure Mr. Negative was in there, and we're also getting Daredevil, voiced by Charlie Cox, with a new costume, which is a kind of combination of his Daredevil season 1 kind of black suit, but he has the actual devil mask with the horns. But it's black, which is that's a pretty cool design. So it looks like a very interesting show, and I would frankly be down for another good Spider-Man animated TV show. So I'm up for it.
Yeah, similar thoughts.
Captain America: New World Order. Nothing to say other than Sam Wilson's getting a Captain America film as he fucking deserves. Good.
Okay, so this is one that I actually had a little bit to speak about.
Okay. One moment, I'm going to turn my light on because the night cometh.
What are you looking at, bitch?
You what?
What?
I heard that.
Nothing. I was just chatting with the audience.
Uh-huh. Cunt. All right.
So I've seen a lot of I wouldn't necessarily say controversy around Captain America and Winter Soldier, but I've seen a lot of rubbish. Just people just chatting absolute shit. And one of those things is a lot of people were questioning who the next Captain America was going to be. To the point where Chris Evans had to come out and literally like make a tweet saying Sam Wilson is the new Captain America. And my brain just cannot comprehend this.
Yeah.
Like, I either they haven't seen the show, which is
But I don't get how you're enough of a Marvel fan to be like, who's the new Captain America, as if you knew that there was, like, you had to be somewhat of a Marvel fan to know that there is a new Captain America. But you aren't enough of a Marvel fan to have both not seen the show, but also not seen all of the photos that went around, because it was a big deal, of Sam Wilson in the fucking Captain America suit.
exactly.
Like,
And I can't help but feel like these
maybe they were part of
people are
Jared Leto's
just
cult, where they were living on a resort island for a few months. They just missed it.
possibly. But I can't help but feel like these people are just being ignorant.
Oh, the 100% baiting. They're trying to get people to be aggressive towards them and then be like, oh, this is the bloody woke liberals being mad that I questioned who the new Captain... why'd you make it about race? I didn't make it about race. I was just asking who the new Captain America was. It's that bullshit.
Yeah, but then and like again, it's just so stupid. I can't I can't fathom why people would take time out of their day to do that even. But on the other side of things, and it's getting a little bit risky here, but I've seen people saying, oh, they've ruined yet another black character by having him basically take over the mantle of a white man. And to that I say, you clearly haven't seen the show.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment, is that the show very much goes out of its way. It's probably the most major plot point, other than the whole Flag Smashers bit, is addressing what that means. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah, like I mean, if you haven't seen the show, then basically what happens in it is Sam goes to another black soldier that was in World War II who people were experimenting on. They were basically like the precursor before the perfected serum that was given to Steve Rogers. And they were basically just sent in to die. And this man, I can't remember his name, but
Something Bradley, I want to say. Like, it began with an M. Michael Bradley or something. I'll Google it real quick.
Yeah. But yeah, this character has a lot of trauma surrounding that and is very sort of bitter towards, I guess, Captain America and white America for basically like promoting this white Captain America that, did all these like things which weren't as horrific as the stuff that him and his like friends that were experimented on got put through. They got put through all these horrific shit, and people, they like loads of them died or something. And so he's very bitter towards the fact that they basically got buried. Like nobody knows of their existence. But instead you've got this white man who is parading around as Captain America, as this like great hero and everything. And he talks a lot to Sam about what that means and what him taking that mantle will mean. Whereas Sam's kind of perspective is that he can reclaim that. You know, he can make
Or
the
it becomes
change.
that, because at first he's 100%
Yeah.
agreeing with Isaiah Bradley is the character's name, but yeah, at first he's like, yeah, I don't, not for the same reasons, but he doesn't want to take the mantle either,
Yeah.
because he doesn't think he deserves it and lives up to it, basically. And yeah, and it's a really beautiful transformation, and it ends with Isaiah Bradley kind of also starting to see that, yeah, actually you can reclaim this and make it, and it's I haven't seen comments to this effect, but based on the stupidity that you've been talking about, I'm sure there are comments that will make this sort of point, that they'll try and say like, oh, well, this is the Captain America for the black community. No, the whole point of it is Captain America should be a character for everyone. It should be a hero for everyone, as long as you're American. But you know, it's Sam Wilson doesn't just represent the black community. He is a Captain America for America. And yeah, I don't know. It's dumb. People be dumb.
Yeah. But yeah, like apart from all that, like I think it's gonna be good. I'm really excited for it. I love Falcon and Winter Soldier. Besides Moon Knight, that was my favorite my favorite Marvel series. Especially when Sam fully became Captain America and he gave his speech. That was like I thought that was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Like I feel like they handled his like his ascension basically perfectly.
Yeah.
Like he in that speech he embodied the ideals of what it means to be maybe not even just Captain America, but exactly what you just said, a kind of a figurehead or idol for what America should stand for, which it currently doesn't because of all the corruption that it's seen. And he, you know, he wants to make these changes. The fact that he even addresses such a, you know, large issue with like the whole people being displaced due to the blip and then the return of the people and everything, like in that speech, and kind of even makes kind of a suggestion of change then and there to the whole world, basically. I just thought it was great, and I can't wait to see more of him.
And I think what was really cool, we don't know that Steve never did something like that, but we were shown Steve to do a moment like that. He saved people, absolutely. Like, okay, he gave speeches during World War II, but like we never saw him like be that sort of public figure where he's like actually like. It's the classic argument with Batman, right? It's dangerous to talk about Batman. It's the classic argument with Batman is that like he could do more help if he, as Bruce Wayne, just donated money to like fix Gotham's problems, which is it's not correct, but it's an argument that people make, and there is an element of, you know, if superheroes who have the power and have the audience don't also try and solve the root of the problem, then all they're doing is fighting a war of attrition. And as far as I can think, that's the first time in the MCU that a superhero addresses the public and is like, this is what we need to do to make things better. It's not just enough to fight the villains, it's also to make sure the villains, there is no need for people to feel like they have to turn to villainy. So, you know, I'm really excited to see. People have talked about who's going to be the leader of the Avengers moving forward, and a lot of people are saying Doctor Strange, and I think Doctor Strange will probably be a very influential character, if not outright the leader of the Avengers. But honestly, what Sam did was he led in that moment, and I would love to see him fully become like a leader of the Avengers. And you know, the Avengers in the previous iteration was kind of a mishmash of Captain America and Iron Man kind of leading together. It was a partnership, but Captain America was more the like military leader, I guess. But like, I would love to see that kind of relationship potentially develop between Sam and Stephen Strange, because also they've basically not had any screen time together. So it was also like really interesting to tap into that relationship potentially. But yeah.
I also feel like that's a very good sort of dynamic as well, because obviously Sam is just a regular guy. Well, he was just a regular guy, and I mean he still is. He is very in touch with society because he was a part of it.
And his
Whereas
family is
even-
frankly in poverty, like, you know,
Yeah.
and him becoming Captain America doesn't change that. So, like, yeah.
But obviously with Doctor Strange, even though he was just a normal guy for, you know, and up until he got into that accident,
Other
he
than being,
wasn't
you know, like a
really.
world famous brain surgeon
Yeah,
who
exactly.
was
He
incredibly
wasn't.
rich.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't really, because he had that wealth, and he was shown to be very detached from the rest of humanity because he saw himself as being superior to them. And
Like some sort of
you know,
superior strange?
yeah,
Sorcerer Supreme, sort of?
yeah, yeah. Um, but you know, now that he's become Doctor Strange and well, yeah, I guess Sorcerer Supreme.
He's not Sorcerer
Although,
Supreme anymore.
yeah, technically he still isn't.
It's the age of Wong.
Yeah,
He's in everything, just like Daredevil. It's Daredevil and Wong's time. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
But yeah, I think he's very much going to be focused on, like, I guess, the multiverse as a whole, and may have differing opinions because he's thinking about grand scale, whereas Sam is thinking about, okay, what is happening on Earth, and, you know, like, how we can change where we are based for the better.
I wonder. Not that Secret Wars is not completely detached from the multiverse traditionally, but Secret Wars is less cosmic than the Kang dynasty traditionally, right? It's more,
Yeah.
it's Doctor Doom basically is the big villain of one of the Secret Wars. There's been multiple, but I wonder whether the two of it. Well, I guess let's talk about the Avengers now. Two Avenger films have been announced, both coming out in 2025 as part of Phase 6, a couple of months apart, and as far as I know, Kang has never been involved in Secret Wars. I wonder whether they're two completely separate plot lines that are both Avengers movies, but they're two different subsets of the Avengers, and you maybe have Sam as Captain America leading his Avengers in Secret Wars, and Strange potentially leading the charge along with maybe the Fantastic Four in the Kang dynasty. Although Fantastic Four would also be Secret Wars because Doom. I don't know. It's just it's entirely like, I think people are kind of assuming it's probably like a part 1 and a part 2 because they're coming out so close together, but they could just be two completely separate Avengers movies coming out right next to each other, or the graphics guy who forgot to put Armor Wars on one of the graphics accidentally put those two films in the same year, and Kevin Feige's like, oh fuck.
But yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool that he has gotten his own film, because I was a little bit worried that he would either be like relegated to crossover, like multi-team films, or that he would just get another TV show. Not that TV shows are inherently lesser, but like, yeah, it's cool that he's taking over the franchise and it's actually like front and center. I also believe it was either the showrunner or the lead writer of Falcon and Winter Soldier was the person who said that they were going to be writing a treatment for a Captain America 4. I don't know if it's confirmed that they are writing New World Order, but it's probably pretty likely that it's the same writer or showrunner, which is also cool. Thunderbolts.
I had a little bit to say about this, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. Again, I'm kind of excited to see where they're going to go with this. Obviously, Thunderbolts is usually a team of like villains turned anti-heroes type thing.
Like some sort of Suicide Squad.
Yep, pretty much. Usually under the thumb of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross,
who the actor has now passed away.
Yeah, so curious if they're gonna. I mean, I don't think he's gonna be in it.
No.
I think what they might have, and I think I might have said about before, is it could be like another sort of Avengers initiative, but it was kind of like in the works by General Ross, and they've now put it into practice, and it's just taken his name basically.
Yeah, I think that's likely, but I think the equivalent of Nick Fury will be Contessa Fontaine, because she's already like gotten her talons into into Yelena. Not Yelena. Yelena?
Yelena.
Yelena. Yelena. There we go. Yelena Belova. I got the surname right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's a pretty big actress. You don't cast her just to have 2 little cameos. So I reckon I don't think that was necessarily the plan when they started developing Thunderbolts, but now that I can't remember the actor's name, but now the actor of Thaddeus Ross has passed away. Yeah, it's probably gonna be that, would be my guess.
So yeah, I'm like, obviously people are speculating who's going to be in it. I'm fairly certain, obviously, Yelena's going to be in it. I'm pretty sure Zemo's going to be in it because they struck gold with him in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And also
and so
US agent.
Yeah, US agent as well. I think there is a possibility Taskmaster could be in it. I
don't know if he's ever been
I-
in the Thunderbolts, but potentially you could have Abomination, because he's been appearing in a couple more. He appeared in Shang-Chi and he's now appearing in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So
if Taskmaster is going to be a part of it, I hope they fix the character because it was not good in Black Widow. There is definitely ways they can fix it, and I hope they take the initiative and do that. But there is also a possibility, because he has been in the Thunderbolts in the comics.
the Punisher.
I kind of wouldn't want him to come back immediately in the Thunderbolts, but if he was, I wouldn't complain. I think people have speculated a couple of others. Some people say Bucky. I don't think so. I don't think he'd. I just don't see why he would be in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it will be interesting nonetheless. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for that.
But no mention about any of the other Thunderbirds though.
No.
Marvel Studios 4. It's the 4th Marvel Studios film. Not really any news on who's going to be in Marvel Studios 4.
Wait, what?
I'm making a dumb joke because the logo for Fantastic Four is just the 4. It doesn't have the name.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm curious.
Oh, right. I understand now that also Marvel Studios 4 could have made it sound like I was talking about the character 4, not the number 4.
I was like, wait, Love and Thunder's already out.
Yeah, no news on who they're casting as the Fantastic Four. John Krasinski has come out and said that he hasn't had a call back yet. He doesn't know whether he's going to be portraying him going forward, or whether it was just for that one universe. He could be, of course, lying, but
Fans are going to be so pissed off if they brought him in for one fucking thing and then make a whole movie and he's not in it.
I mean, there have been also people calling for, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who played him in the original Fantastic Four movies. People are like, those movies suck. That guy was a pretty good Mr. Fantastic, though.
I mean, I loved those movies and I thought the cast was perfect. So I would be happy if they just brought back all of them. Bring back fucking Chris Evans as Human Torch.
For a multiverse film, they can absolutely do that.
Exactly.
And then also, I don't think he's going to be cast as him, but he's been fan cast as him for a while. I would love to see Rahul Kohli as Mr. Fantastic. I think he would rock that role. But, Rahul Kohli is one of the internet's boyfriends. He's an actor who appeared in iZombie. He appeared in Haunting of Bly Manor and Midnight Mass. He's a big fucking nerd.
I've not seen any of those things.
He's a good actor. He's a handsome dude. He's a big fucking nerd. He's a Brit, and he's hilarious. For instance, yesterday, I'm not gonna shout out the Twitter account because I think it was maybe a little bit mean for him to clap back at them like this, but also funny. He tweeted like a photo of his hotel room with his Warhammer painting setup, and he said, "This setup makes me horny in it." And then someone asked him, "What doesn't make you horny, Rahul?" And he said, "Raylo." And then so many Raylo stands got so fucking pissed off at him. And one of them was like, imagine being a 30-something-year-old actor digging up a shit from 2 years ago and giving Twitter permission to hate on us. And he just went back like, you're the one, like, quote retweeting me, bring the hate towards you. Like, and then he, like, did a post-it note apology saying, "I'm sorry, Raylo fans, I lied. Raylo does actually make me incredibly horny." So he's just like that sort of funny guy, and he's, as a kind of hint that he's into Warhammer. So yeah, I like him as an actor. I think he's incredibly charismatic, and he does look the part, other than being a different ethnicity. But again, Mr. Fantastic doesn't need to be white. But look, if we get John Krasinski back as Mr. Fantastic, as long as he plays the role well and is written to be like Mr. Fantastic, I'm fine. I'm fine with how he was written in Doctor Strange, but that isn't how main universe Mr. Fantastic should be written. You know, so but yeah, I'm fine with John Krasinski as it. But if it's not John Krasinski, I'm not married to the idea of him being the main universe Mr. Fantastic either. But yeah, no other news other than it's going to kick off Phase 6, which is a kind of a big deal, I guess. And also that this, I'm not sure I fully agree with. Kevin Feige said, you know, Fantastic Four is not going to be an origin story because people know the origin of the Fantastic Four. So we're just going to kind of jump in with the action, which they've had that approach with several heroes. Okay, look, I know that Fantastic Four have had 2 movies, like 2 origin story movies. I don't think general public actually do know the origin story, though, that it's probably one of the ones that you should tell and do it properly this time, rather than, I get it with Spider-Man or with Batman or whatever, but yeah, I don't think the Fantastic Four really fit that mold personally. But
I mean, I don't really mind either way, as long as we see Doctor Doom.
There is rumors that we might be getting a Doctor Doom movie or TV show, and that might be one of the missing things from Phase 6, which Secret Wars feels like it's very soon to be doing Secret Wars to me, but if they are doing it, and they're doing it as is the comics, they need to set up Doctor Doom, and they need to set him up quick and well. So, yeah. And then we kind of talked about the Avengers movies. Do you have anything else to say about Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars?
Not really. I was extremely surprised to see any Avengers movies, let alone 2 in such close proximity.
Yeah, because they kind of hinted that Infinity War Endgame would be the final Avengers film ever, which I doubted always, but like,
I mean, they said, because I thought that when I first saw it as well, but then I kind of thought back, and what I think Kevin Feige actually said, which still isn't really any better, was there wasn't going to be sort of a large build-up as much as like the Endgame saga, or the Infinity War saga, which I guess there isn't as big of a build-up to these Avengers films.
Yeah.
But like, still, I'm surprised that they're coming so quickly, and like, again, it is another saga, so like,
I'm curious to see whether anything changes going forward with that, because Phase 4 has gotten quite a lot of criticism. Like, it's probably the most critiqued phase of the MCU so far. And to be fair, that's because Phase 1 was, like, such low stakes compared to what we're at now. Like, nowhere near as many eyes on it. And Phase 2, okay, that did get a decent amount of criticism, but, like, it ended pretty strongly. But Phase 4, the kind of criticism has been like, oh, it doesn't really feel like, it feels like, you know, optional extras post Endgame. Like, there's no like real urgency to watch anything, and a lot of it just doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere. And also, like, there's been concerns with the VFX quality in some shots and such like. and the amount of content they're pumping out, and like the level of like almost commitment you need to have if you want to be up to date on the MCU now. So there's been quite a lot of criticism for Phase 4, and part of it has been that it feels a bit aimless. So I'm wondering whether they might have like. Part of me is like they probably never intended to announce much about Phase 6 because it's so far in advance, but at the same time, maybe they were going to announce more than they did, and they took stuff off because they're reworking some stuff to like make it more of a build up to the Avengers movies.
Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, I also just don't agree with the people that
No, neither do I.
like.
I do think that Phase 4 has been a bit hit and miss for me compared to Phase 3, for instance. But also, we've gotten a lot more content in Phase 4, so there's more opportunities for there to be air. And also, pretty much all of Phase 4 has been shot during COVID. And COVID, okay, the Batman was shot during COVID, and that's like a holy grail movie. But the majority of stuff that's been shot during COVID has had some dent to it here or there, whether it's the cinematography or the VFX or the writing or the pacing or whatever. So I'm kind of a little bit more forgiving of it in that sense. So,
And I mean, I just think, one, why are you complaining about content? Like, there's more of it. Fucking great. As a fan, I like my content, like I get people are saying like, oh well, I've just got burnout, it's all the same now, like I just I'm just kind of done with it, like I've just seen too many. Well,
fine, stop watching.
Yeah, just don't watch it, or maybe don't watch it on release, leave it a bit, and then if you want to watch it at some point, it's there. Like, you don't have to watch it immediately or anything like that. And then two, people are saying that everything is just trash after Endgame, which I think is just wrong.
Even if you're taking MCU theatrical releases, and even with that, if you're ignoring No Way Home, because that kind of is a cheat code because it's got the nostalgia of the previous Spider-Man, Shang-Chi is still, I think, one of the best entries in the MCU. Like, it's top 10 for me.
It's probably top 3 for me.
Maybe top 5 for me. Not sure if it's top 3. But either way, like that's a fucking great film. Oh, also, forgot to mention on the Avengers films, I can't remember the director's name, but the director of Shang-Chi is confirmed to be doing the next two Avengers films, which I'm down for that as well.
Yep, definitely. So. Yeah, like, I just don't think that is correct. And then, people are saying that it's completely directionless, and like there's no real overarching story or anything, to which I'd say you haven't actually seen any of the past few things then, because there very clearly is.
And it's almost this attitude like everything has to connect to the big meta plot, as if all of Phase 1 or all of Phase 2 or Phase 3 contributed to the Thanos how did I just pronounce that name wrong? The Thanos arc. Like, it didn't. So like people might be like, fucking Winter Soldier doesn't contribute anything to the storyline overall. It introduces the new Captain America that's pretty fucking major.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I don't understand. It's so strange to me, honestly. Like, after Endgame, it feels like half of the fan base just kind of like turned on it for absolutely no reason. It's because, like, I feel like because they just don't like change. That's it. That is all it is. They do not like change. But they are the same ones that complain when there isn't any change. They completely contradict themselves. They say, oh, everything, like all the movies are just the same now. It's completely rinse and repeat. But they aren't. And then they go and complain that it's directionless and
no director in Marvel really has their own voice. Like, they don't get to put their own style on it. Sam Raimi releases a Sam Raimi film first, which is a Doctor Strange MCU entry second. Oh, this was not really an MCU entry. That feels too much like a Sam Raimi film.
God, it just pisses me off reading comments like that. Honestly, it just really bugs me.
And again, I think you can absolutely criticize anything and I think there are valid criticisms to make towards Doctor Strange that I was just referring to. You can say that Sam Raimi's style doesn't fit the story that they're trying to tell, for instance, or it does a disservice to Wanda by making her a villain so quickly, or whatever. But you shouldn't be critiquing the fact that it feels like a Sam Raimi film if your critique normally is that directors don't get to have their own vision on a Marvel project. Like, those two are directly opposed to each other.
Yeah. Or you can't complain that nothing is changing and then complain that it's changed too much. It just doesn't.
And anyways,
doesn't make any sense.
You can't stop the change any more than you can stop the suns from rising in the morning.
Yes.
That was a Shmi quote from Phantom Menace.
Oh.
Anyways, we've been going for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Fucking hell.
I'm gonna try and make this real quick. I promise. I'm gonna try and make this quick. I want you to hold me accountable, Alex, because I won't hold myself accountable. Okay.
Okay. 10 minutes.
Daredevil's getting his own show, and it's gonna be 18 episodes, and it's called Daredevil Born Again, and it's confirmed it's Charlie Cox, and it's Vincent D'Onofrio, and it's 2024, so it's like a year and a half away, because it's the spring of 2024, and I have mixed feelings. I hate to be this guy, because I hate when I see people like this online being like, you've asked for Daredevil and you're getting Daredevil back. I'm very happy to get Daredevil back, and I think we've talked about this before, but I'm a little bit concerned about how Daredevil is going to be. And I think hopefully She-Hulk will put my concerns a little bit to bed, because he's going to appear. Now, I don't expect him to have a big role in that, maybe an episode or so. Like, it's kind of similar to when Iron Fist showed up in Luke Cage. It's probably going to be that sort of deal. But if he's incredibly quippy and doesn't feel like Daredevil from his own show, then I'll be concerned. To be clear, totally fine if She-Hulk is being quippy or breaking the fourth wall and being like, look at this sourpuss or whatever. Like, that might be a bit weird. But if she's being comedic and very Disney Marvel, that's one thing. I don't want him to feel like them. He needs to feel like him. He has to be Daredevil, not swashbuckler Daredevil. And to be fair, I'm seeing like people being like, oh, he's going to be quipping every 30 seconds and he's going to be like, I'll see you on the flip side, and then do a flip off a building or whatever. Which is mostly memeing, but like, he didn't.
I'd find that very funny.
No. He can be funny because the Daredevil show has plenty of comedy in it, the Netflix Daredevil show, but it's a certain type of comedy. It's not the same as the Marvel quippy comedy that's like really oversaturated in some content, and not all. Like, Moon Knight's not overly done with it, so like it doesn't need to be. And his very brief scene in Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't feel like a different take on that character. It feels like the same take of that character in a different property, so I'm hoping it will be the same. But yeah, I really don't want a kind of Marvel quippy Daredevil. I want it to feel like the same Daredevil, particularly if it's supposed to be the same continuity, but even if it's not, I want it to feel like the same take on that character. But with Deadpool being announced to be R-rated, and Marvel Zombies, which we forgot to talk about, Marvel Zombies is also confirmed to be R-rated, I have hopes that Daredevil will be R-rated, or at least not kid-friendly. I do think there is a possibility to do a Daredevil season 4 that's okay for kids to watch, but I do think it would do a disservice to that version of the character. And, I don't want them to shy away from the darkness that's in Matt. I don't want them to shy away from the Catholicism or the Catholic guilt that he feels like that's so central to the character. I don't want them to shy away from the gory bloodiness that is being Daredevil. I want all of that to stay. So I'm nervous because I care so much, is basically my takeaway. Also, I don't like the new logo. The new logo reminds me of the 2003 logo. Just keep the old logo. It's the logo from the comic books. It's Poggers. Doesn't need to be a new logo that looks boring. Also, final thing. I haven't been 10 minutes, right? How long have I been?
Nope, you've barely been 5.
Excellent. Final thing then is I'm a little bit nervous about the subtitle. Because Daredevil Born Again is a particular run of the comics by Frank Miller. It's kind of like he did his Man Without Fear run, which is kind of like his reimagining of the origins of Daredevil. And then he did the Daredevil Born Again arc, which was kind of like main story Marvel Daredevil comics. So like it was him taking over the run rather than it being a separate thing. And he basically reinvented the character. This is the story where like he meets Maggie, his mother, who is a nun. This is the story where Kingpin finds out his identity and systematically destroys his life. It's the one where he's so incredibly down and out, like he's so rock bottom and has to build himself back up to being Daredevil. And from that point on, he's a little bit darker. He's a little bit more jaded and edgelordy. Basically the Daredevil we've seen in the show, and how Daredevil tends to be in the comics post that, because it was similar sort of level of reimagining to something like the Long Halloween reimagining Batman. And the thing is, pretty much all of the story beats of Daredevil Born Again were adapted in Daredevil Season 3. So the fact that they're subtitling it Born Again, I'm like, well, you better not be adapting the comic, because they've already done it and they did it fucking amazingly. So I don't want you to reboot the continuity and redo it and maybe not do it as well, or even if you do it as well, what's the point? I'm hoping they're just calling it Born Again because it's like a known name linked to Daredevil, and the kind of going like, hey, he's back. We're bringing him back. He's back in the MCU, Born Again, because people know that name, but also it means something. It'd be almost like if Batman wasn't in, if Robert Pattinson didn't play Batman for like 15 years and then they did a Batman sequel called The Dark Knight Returns, it'd be that sort of thing where it's not actually necessarily an adaptation of the comic book, but it's a known name linked to that property. But if you were going to do that, just call it Daredevil Man Without Fear, which is what his comic run is called, and like that's a Poggers subtitle. So I'm just worried about a lot of minor things and then one major thing, but I'm also really, really excited, but I'm scared. It's like I'm working up the courage to kiss. It's similar jitters to when I was like knowing that I was going to have my first kiss, and I was like overthinking it in my head as I was going to meet the girl, and it's like that, but it's like a year and a half away and it's Daredevil.
You've had a long distance relationship, and it's been ages since you last saw her, and now you're finally going to meet her again. And
but maybe she's changed, or maybe I've changed, and maybe we want different things. Maybe she wants to be lighthearted and fun, and I still want to be brooding and self-loathing. It's just, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I imagine you'll go through it the exact same feeling, even when they announce Punisher coming back. Unless they immediately announce that he's going to be R-rated, in which case that might put your mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah, definitely that would, yeah.
But yeah, ultimately I'm excited. Also, it's an 18-plus series, which is way more than any other Disney Plus show has ever had, which is cool. Again, it feels like Kevin Feige's being like, Daredevil's our boy, Charlie Cox is our boy. It is the age of Daredevil, which I am down for. And he also made some comment where he was like, oh, we've got, Doctor Strange, and we've got that lot doing like the mystic stuff, and then we've got, the cosmic stuff with the Marvels, and then we've got Daredevil and Spider-Man as our street level heroes. And I was like, Daredevil and Spider-Man, eh? As your, that implies something about Spider-Man's kind of stakes going forward in the MCU, and also potentially a crossover between those two, like a proper one, which would be fucking awesome. So, yeah. I'm excited, but I'm scared. That's my conclusion.
It's just a shame that if they do bring back the Punisher, we'll never be able to see him interact with Captain America. That would have been so fucking good.
You can interact with the new Captain America, though.
It's not as good, because Punisher's hero is Captain America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just respects him entirely. I mean,
I have
that
seen
was
the
the
line
whole.
which was like, you shouldn't. He said it to cops, where he's like, you shouldn't be worshipping me. I'm everything that you should be against. If you want to worship a hero, go
Mhm.
worship Captain America or something. Like I've seen
Yeah,
that page, but
and I mean, literally, one of the reasons I love the Civil War comics so much, the first Civil War at least, is because when Punisher brings in like a beaten up Spider-Man to Captain America's like hideout with all, the other people on his side, including a couple of villains. As soon as Punisher sees those villains, he kills them immediately. And then Captain America starts like beating down on him, like, why would you do that? And Punisher just looks him dead in the eyes and he's like, I'm not gonna fight you back. Like I won't hit you. Like you're my hero, and also you don't deserve it. And like, oh man, so fucking good. And Civil War the movie was crap.
yeah. I mean, I would love to see one little interaction between Daredevil and Captain America, but this could absolutely be Sam Wilson's Captain America, which is just there's a really dumb panel in a comic book where I can't remember why, but Captain America's fighting Daredevil. Like I think he thinks Daredevil's guilty of murdering someone or something, and he throws his shield at Daredevil, and Daredevil just jumps up, lands on top of it, and then like surfs it in midair for a little bit. It's so fucking stupid and corny, but I would both hate and love to see it in live action.
That would be pretty good.
But yeah, that's my Daredevil coverage. It deserves to be the full podcast, but I won't subject you to that. So let's really quickly talk about Andor. I'm just so fucking hyped for it. I was hyped for it after the first trailer. They just dropped a new trailer today. It looks so fucking good. I'm so hyped for it. That's my Andor bit.
Um, I wasn't really hyped for it. It's just one of those things for me where I'm like, cool. Like, I kind of wanted to see a bit more of like the origins of the rebellion, especially after watching Rebels. It's cool to see like other characters out there doing, their part for it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm cool that we're getting. I'm happy that we're getting that. Um, Again, wasn't really that hyped. I didn't think the first trailer really gave me much to sort of go on, but this one was a lot more.
There's a lot more hints at the plot, isn't there?
Yeah, like it was very narrative based,
Mm-hmm.
and with a few explosions thrown in here and there. So that caught my attention a bit more. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it will be pretty good.
There were also some fucking great lines in that trailer. So you've got I don't think we know his character's name, but you've got Stellan Skarsgård's character says the Empire's choking us so slowly we barely even notice, which is a fucking phenomenal line. And then you've got Saw Gerrera, who is in the trailer. Saw Gerrera is going to be in the show. It's fucking awesome to see.
Yeah, I was hyped about Saw.
Yeah, he says something like he's talking to Stellan Skarsgård's character, and he says, for the greater good, and Stellan Skarsgård says, "Call it what you will," and Saw Gerrera's character responds, "Let's call it war." It's just like it's got some banger lines, and then there's the one from the first teaser trailer, which was like, "This is what the sound of a reckoning is." It's just like I feel like there's some lovely quotes. It's also written by the same guy who wrote Rogue One, so it's like the same narrative team, which is awesome. It looks fantastic. Like people have criticized Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett's visuals, and I don't think they look bad, but they don't look as good as Mandalorian at its peak, and they don't look as good as this. This looks visually the best Disney Plus Star Wars show I think so far. Like its production values look like they just know what they're doing a lot.
It's weird because I remember when like we talked about the first couple of episodes of Kenobi. I was saying how when me and Samu were watching it, we kind of felt like it had that sort of grainy kind of look that the original Star Wars had, and kind of what you'd expect, especially on like Tatooine.
Mm.
And I was saying how like I love that, that type of style. It fits it so well. It like returns to form rather than kind of like the almost overly saturated colors in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel like Kenobi got worse over the episodes.
I think in particular the Fortress Inquisitorius episode and the Jabin set, both were shot on the volume. Most stuff is shot on the volume, but I think what we're starting to learn is more limitations of the volume, where like it makes things feel a little bit smaller and a little bit less epic in scope because you're not able to move around as much. And I think The Mandalorian used the volume really, really well because it was the first thing to use it. So it's like being really picky about how it uses it. And then you compare that to maybe Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi, where maybe they're going, oh, we can do whatever we want on the volume, and then they're maybe going, as the show releases and people go, that doesn't look as good as it could look, they've gone, okay, so it doesn't work with these types of shots. And how it was used in the Batman is like very static shots, like the shots of them where the bat signal is on the rooftop. That's when they're using the volume. They're not constantly using it for other scenes where he's like running around buildings or whatever. You know, they're actually shooting that for real. So I think there's maybe a limitation to the volume. I know for a fact that Andor built massive sets in the UK that they shot on, like film-sized sets. And they probably did use the volume as well, but that might be why this looks better production value-wise, is because rather than it being, I don't know, a couple of feet of real stuff and then digital stuff afterwards that the actors can't interact with because if they go too far into the background in a screen, and or he can walk down a street and it's an actual street, that might be why it looks better. But yeah, it looks really, really good. And I think people are saying like, how does it look so much better, blah, 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 blah. I think it's probably just smarter use of budget or different use of budget, and the old techniques still work, sort of thing. But you know, the volume is new technology, so we're just like we found the limitations of what green screen could and couldn't do well. We'll work out over the years what the volume can and can't do well, and it might be that Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett were kind of victims of that, but they didn't look awful. They just didn't look as good as The Mandalorian did, or this looks. So, also this might have some like really dud-looking shots they just didn't show in the trailer. So, but yeah, it's been delayed like nearly a month. It's coming out in September now rather than August, but it's going to come out with a 3-episode release. So, also they're referring to it as Andor Season 1, which makes it sound like there's going to be multiple seasons. So, that also might be why they're putting a lot of effort into it, rather than maybe Book of Boba Fett, where they were like, that's a one and done deal. Maybe with this, they're going, oh, we need to make this look good because this is going to be like our next The Mandalorian sort of thing. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really excited for it. KOTOR's been delayed. Do we want to talk about it in depth?
I mean, there's not really anything to say other than fucking hell. Like,
It's been indefinitely delayed due to a shake-up at the studio, is what I read. So we don't know if it's ever coming out now.
Yeah, because like I think it was like the lead designer and then someone else also got fired. And yeah, so great, brilliant, love that.
It sucks, but also I have original KOTOR. Like I'm really looking forward to the remake when it comes out, but I'm not like desperate for it. If that was, for instance, Jedi Survivor, I would be way, way, way more bummed out than I was when I read KOTOR being delayed or cancelled.
I think the reason I was bummed out so much about KOTOR being delayed is the fact that this is nothing new with Star Wars games. You know, like Star Wars games have a history of being caught up in development hell and then just never being released or just binned. And
13.
Exactly. And it's just like seeing it all over again, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've pretty much, now that this has happened, I'm quite safe to say it's not coming out ever. It's not happening. And if it does, then like I will be shocked and very happy, but
I reckon that although it might not come out for several years now, if that studio is not going to be able to finish it, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney tries to shop it to another studio that could do it. And they might have to start from the ground up, and therefore it might take longer. But like, considering how much hype was generated from them announcing it, I think Disney have gone, oh, we want this to, like, this isn't just like some like, oh, we'll see if this does well, like the Republic Commando remaster was or whatever. This is like, okay, no, this is a guaranteed hit if we release it, even if it fucking sucks as a game. Enough people will pre-order it that will like make loads of money, sort of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it does see the light of day, but it might be delayed for several years if it has to move to another studio that has to start from the ground up or whatever. It's also a shame that there was a fan making a high-quality remake in Unreal 4 that then got told to stop because they were making this. And then that Unreal 4 version might be much closer to releasing now if they were still allowed to work on it.
I mean, again, there have been plenty of Star Wars games that have been fan-made, or at least in production, that got shut down, by either Lucasfilm or Lucas Games or Disney. It's just a rinse and repeat cycle, I feel like, with Star Wars games.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm sure it will see the light of day. Also, when we're finished with this podcast, I've got some concept art to show you from Rise of Skywalker that I discovered recently, which you will like. So it's maybe KOTOR related, who knows. Media,
we have monsooned in week.
or 3 weeks.
In month. Do you want to go or should I go?
You go.
I guess I'll very quickly talk about Thor Love and Thunder. I didn't hate it. I also had quite a lot of gripes with it. The biggest one being, and I never thought I'd say this, Taika Waititi's humor. I think it was just completely oversaturated. And so I guess I'll first say that the biggest positives about the film, I felt, was Jane and some of her moments with Thor, like their relationship and what she was going through. And then they completely undercut it by the rest of the film just being joke every couple of seconds. And it, like, part of me feels like, because obviously there was a lot more filmed that they had to cut out, and I'm never really the one to jump on the bandwagon and be like a release the director's cut type thing, but like I kind of want to see the director's cut, because I feel like if they had to cut out so much, that might be why the pacing just felt god fucking awful.
But the pacing wasn't great, but I don't think the pacing was the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is the oversaturation of jokes. And the thing is with Marvel is that Marvel has had this problem in the past, and it's not gotten much better. There are exceptions, of course, but there are so many emotional scenes in Marvel movies that get undercut by comedy, almost as if Disney is scared to let a scene be serious and emotional. There are obvious exceptions, Iron Man Sacrifice, No Way Home has jokes, but most of them don't undercut the drama or the tension. But when Marvel is bad at it, it's fucking awful at it. And what it felt like to me with Love and Thunder is it was a funny film. Like, I actually laughed quite a bit during it, but it was a bad film because every single opportunity it had to have a dramatic or emotional moment, except for maybe the one at the very end, it did the joke route.
I mean, I found quite a lot of the jokes at the beginning very funny, but because there were just so many of them by the end of the film, I just wasn't laughing, because it was just like I was just kind of done with it. It was
there's also multiple like recurring jokes that do start to grate, because it's not just jokes that are undercutting drama, but it's also the same fucking joke undercutting drama. So it's like not even inventive with its undercutting.
And yeah, and I feel kind of similar to how I felt with Guardians 2. And now I really do like Guardians 2. I think it's a decent film. I think the first one is much better, but I remember vividly coming out of the cinema after watching Guardians 2 and saying to my friend Ben, like, in this movie, they took all of the jokes that hit well in the first one, saw that people liked them, and then just like did the same jokes, or changed them very slightly, and just kind of like kept throwing them at you, and like it's just, it doesn't work. It does not work because we've seen those same jokes before. Like, and the biggest problem I had with that was Drax. Like, Drax in the first film was by far my favorite character. Like, every single line he said, pretty much, I was just like belly laughing. Like the scene where they're all escaping from prison, and Rocket says, "Oh, his people are literal. Like, any metaphors will go over his head."
They would
And
not go
Drax
over my
says,
head. I would
"My
just catch
reflex is
them.
too fast. I'd catch them."
Yeah.
That is literally the golden standard joke, I think, in the whole of the MCU. That is, God, I fucking love it. And then the second movie, they were like, "Oh, people liked Drax, because of the literal thing, and like his kind of like deadpan monotone expression for most times and whatever." And then there's a scene in the second movie where him, Mantis, and Star-Lord are sat down, and Mantis kind of like, does like delves into his emotions, and Drax just like does this like massive laugh, and I'm like, I mean, it's not really that funny. It's just nothing, and there were just plenty of moments like that in that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Thor: Love and Thunder was that, but on steroids.
Yeah.
Like,
turn the dial up to 11. Yeah, I agree. And as I said, there were funny moments and there were good moments in the film. I didn't hate it. It's not for the dark world,
true.
but it's just like it was just really disappointing. And I think as well, I made the comment earlier that someone has said online that Phase 4 feels like side quests after you've beaten the main storyline, which I don't agree with. But I do think I agree with that with Thor: Love and Thunder. A better Thor: Love and Thunder would have felt like an important story for Thor's arc. But I think it doesn't deliver enough on the important parts of his story to make it feel like I don't feel like it felt earned at the end. This kind of like, oh, they're known as Love and Thunder. I was like, you didn't earn that corny ass roll credits
like
title bit.
And went from like God bod to dad bod or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It was just it was just a bunch of like, I don't know. To me, it feels like what it was. It was dad humor. It wasn't like that. That's basically what it
Yeah.
was realistically, and maybe that's what Taika was going for. But I also feel like it just wasn't the usual sort of like witty, but also kind of just really silly humor that Taika goes for. It was just silly. It was silly dad humor.
Yeah. And I also think, Gore, both Christian Bale as performance as Gore is pretty good. Gore's story should be fucking phenomenal. Like, that's such a gold mine for a great story, particularly if you want to clash it with that comedic tone. But it didn't clash with that comedic tone. There was no real give and take of the emotionality of Gore. And I think the one where it's most prevalent is the scene where Gore becomes Gore the God Butcher and butchers his first god. It's played for laughs, and I get that it's supposed to be this god just doesn't give a shit about him, but the filmmaking didn't make it feel like that. It made it feel like we shouldn't give a shit. We didn't make us emote with Gore, and I just think it's such a waste of a good character and a good story and a good actor. And I just think it's not awful. It's not awful. I just think it's kind of where I'm at with Daredevil, where it's like such high standards after Ragnarok, and then and I really hope Daredevil doesn't go the same route.
And like with Gore as well, I think he just didn't. I don't think Taika Waititi should have done Gore. Personally, I don't think it fits that style. I mean, you look at Ragnarok and you have Hela, right? Like, she can be a big threat, but realistically, the only thing that she is threatening is Asgard. And okay, that's pretty big for Thor, right? But
4-4.
she's just gonna be, she just kind of wants to rule over it, right?
Mm.
Like, and she just kind of torments the planet as a whole. That kind of fits more with, you know, Thor being funny, and there can be more funny moments in that film, especially, with Thor sort of building up, getting back to Asgard and everything, because he is not facing that challenge all throughout the movie.
Mm.
Whereas like, with Gore, he literally stole all the children in the town, right? He is a villain who kidnapped a bunch of kids. That's quite a heinous thing to do, right? And he literally goes around murdering all of the other gods. He's meant to be pretty despicable, I
Mm.
would assume. Well, to have this like despicable villain and then have your main character just kind of fucking about for the whole movie, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Like, especially with Thor, like Thor going to the kids and just being like, "Oh, well, you
Hopefully
just
you won't all
just
die or whatever.
yeah, you just need to be brave."
Mm.
Like, it doesn't fit. That isn't that. It just felt really off to
Yeah.
me.
And I think I will say I don't necessarily. People have been like Taika shouldn't touch 4-5. If they do 4-5, Taika shouldn't be allowed in any MCU ever again. Get rid of Taika's Star Wars film, blah blah. I don't think this means Taika is an awful director or anything like that. I think it's a misstep. But he's done more good than bad, I'd say, as a director. That being said as well, and apparently neither he nor Chris Hemsworth knew that the tag for will return was going to be at the end of the film, so that was apparently a surprise to both of them. But obviously the way the film ends with the post-credit scene, we haven't really gone into major spoilers, so I'm going to avoid saying what the post-credit scene is. But that sets up a villain that I think would fit Taika's style significantly better than Gore. And fair enough, maybe it would have been too sudden to set him up in this film and like have him be the villain of this film without any setup in the previous ones, but the villain they set up feels more Taika's speed to me. So if he does 4-5 and does that villain, I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to that. But yeah, I think this was a misstep. It was funny, but it felt funny in the way that like Harold and Kumar films feel funny, sort of thing. It's like dumb funny and that funny.
Yeah, I also just don't like Valkyrie. I just didn't like Valkyrie at all. I think
I like her as a character, but I think she was misused in this film quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, she was I quite liked her in Ragnarok.
Particularly because, real quick, Tessa Thompson said ages before the film came out that her storyline in this film would be her looking for her queen, and there was a lot of like behind the scenes promoting of this film, and they were kind of upping how LGBTQI plus it would be. It really wasn't. You got that the Korg's species are all men. You got that. Valkyrie.
They turned Meek into a woman.
Did they? I didn't notice that. Did you know, by the way, when Meek's writing on the whiteboard in that scene, if you pause it there, it's literally the entire plot of the film, including all the way to the end, is outlined. Like you've got a thing that appears at the end of the film is on the whiteboard, which is kind of a funny little fourth wall break. But Valkyrie kisses a woman's hand at one point. Like it just, I don't know. Like maybe that stuff was cut out for time or because Disney. But I don't know. I feel like if her story was supposed to be her finding her queen and they didn't give her anything to do with that, then they really fucked up her story, didn't they?
Yeah. I definitely the highlight of that movie for me was Jane. Pretty much any scene Jane was in, I really liked. And I was a little bit worried before about how they'd handle her character, and if they were gonna kind of like be replacing like Thor with like Jane without much reason, I guess.
Hmm.
But honestly, I prefer Jane to actual Thor in this movie. Like, if the reason that maybe Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi wasn't aware of the tag is maybe because Chris Hemsworth Thor isn't the one they were talking about.
Maybe.
Uh, and honestly, I wouldn't mind if they
Mm.
just want to go ahead, like if they want to bring back Jane, because obviously now that in the end credits and whatever happens, I think they'd be shooting themselves in the foot if they didn't bring her back, and I would personally really love to see her move forward as Thor.
That being said, you're wrong. She's not the best part of the movie. The best part of the movie is Russell Crowe's Zeus,
Okay,
with
that
his
was pretty
constantly shifting awful accent that's totally intentional.
bad. Yeah.
Also, real quick, I respect your it wouldn't go over my head. I would catch it being the gold standard of jokes in the MCU, but I will raise you. The force of the sun will kill you only if I die. Yes, that's what killing you means.
Okay, that is a pretty good one, but I don't know. The Drax one just gets me every time.
Fair. I just love Peter Dinklage's performance of that. Yes, that's what killing you means. It just gets me every single time. But
Yeah. So yeah, that's Thor Love and Thunder anyway.
who also, real quick, apparently Peter Dinklage and Jeff Goldblum were both cut from the film. Like, they apparently shot scenes for it and were removed. But yeah.
Yeah. Um well, speaking of Norse mythology, I also recently finished off AC Valhalla. Um Fucking cracking game, honestly. Like
I need to go back and finish it.
It's so good, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like it came out the same time that like three other things came out, and it just kind of like fell to the wayside, and I kind of forgot about it. But I recently went on a trip to Sweden, and while we were there, my friend's fiance was playing it, and I was just kind of watching it for a bit, and I was like, man, this looks so good. Like, I really need to try and get Mjolnir. And so I downloaded it while I was there and then played it at the airport before our flight home. And then as soon as I got home, that's literally the only thing I did for the next like 2 to 3 days.
Wait, had you not started it before you went to Sweden?
No, I had. I just
Okay,
hadn't got very
I was
far
going to say
into
whether
it.
this was like an outer world situation where you somehow beat like a 200-hour game in like
No,
3 days.
I had like, I think I had around about 20 hours on it.
Okay.
And then like I did 30 hours in like 2 or 3 days.
I'm a decent chunk of the way through it. I was playing it last year and fell off, and the reason why is because my computer was starting to perform badly. It's better now, so I probably could go back and finish it, but literally, I was in a story part where I needed to be in Canterbury, and every single time I went anywhere near Canterbury, my game would start to stutter and freeze and eventually crash. So it kind of soft-locked me out of continuing the story. But my computer's better now, so I should go back and play it, because I was enjoying it, but then other stuff has come out since then that's taken my attention. So
the story is just so good, and like I still see loads of people saying, you know, slagging it off and everything because it's not an Assassin's Creed game. Well, I don't give a
you
fuck
can't stop
because
the
it's
change any more than you can stop the sun's rising in the morning.
I think like I was very skeptical of the changes when they first released Origins because I was like, oh, like it wasn't the assassins bit that I was worried about, it was the combat because I was so used to, you know, the click a button to counter type thing, and you know, like I liked that. But honestly, the combat in Valhalla is just so fucking fun. Like some of the brutal executions you can do, like just being able to, you know, change up the way you play by just swapping out your weapons and everything. You know, like being able to put points into different abilities and whatever to, you know, like get better at, say you want to go to dual wield like heavy axes, you know, you just go way of the bear, stack all your points into that, and you're just like a massive damage machine, you know, like it's just so good.
The
I was
one major compliment I can give to Valhalla's combat, from what I remember of it, is there's a boss fight in a story where you're fighting some guy and you're on a cliff, and I had a move that basically is a rugby tackle, and I just went, I don't feel like fighting you. I'm going to rugby tackle you off this cliff. Now, most games, particularly open world games, will be like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Invisible wall. You're not allowed to throw them off the cliff. No, Valhalla let me throw him off the cliff, and I went off the edge of the cliff with him. We fell down to the next level of the cliff. We both land. I'm on like half health. He's on half health. I'm like, heal up. Do it again. I rugby tackle him off the next stage, and I literally like almost kill him from doing that, and then finish him off on the ground. I was like, that was cool. I appreciate you letting me do that.
I think they might have changed it maybe from since you last played, because I did that exact same thing on one of the bosses, except he was on full health. I rugby tackled him. I hit the wall and didn't fall off, but he just got chucked off the end and he just died instantly. And it was glorious.
I didn't manage to chuck him all the way off the cliff. Like the cliff was like this, and then there was another level down here, and then another level down here. So I went bang, bang, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, I just fucking threw someone straight off of a bloody like massive cliff, and
but it was cool because it felt like a movie scene, because like you can't fight him when you're in midair, but look, because I rugby tackled him off the edge, I was still rugby tackling him in midair as we were falling, and it felt like a scene from a movie where like then we'd start punching each other in midair and whatever. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, like I was blown away when I started playing it again. It was so fun, and like I think the last few games, in fact, no, not even the last few games, throughout the whole of the Assassin's Creed saga, and you know, I've played most of them, I'd say. Like I played 1 and 2 when I was like really quite little, and so I don't remember anything about them. But you know, I played Brotherhood, I played
Revelations.
I played 3, I played 4, I played Rogue.
I haven't played Rogue. I keep on meaning to get that at some point because I've heard
Rogue's
it's very,
really
very
good. I thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. I think that's severely underrated, honestly. But I never paid attention to the actual story. And like I did in this one, and it's actually really fucking interesting. And now I'm thinking, am I gonna have to do a whole Assassin's Creed playthrough?
I will say, like, I enjoy pretty much all the varying degrees of enjoyment, but I've pretty much enjoyed all the Assassin's Creeds, and I enjoyed what I played in Valhalla. I enjoyed Odyssey, although I will say Odyssey story really lets it down, and it got to the point where I was at the end of Odyssey, and I was like, I can't wait for this to be over so I can go on to play a different game. But I really enjoyed the world, I really enjoyed the gameplay, just the story, it's not great. I really loved Origins. That's probably one of my favorite ones, but I do think the direction that those three took to being more RPG based and being set in older times where, you know, it's more open world and it's more spread out settlements and whatever, is a shame, because Assassin's Creed Unity, which has gotten so much shit because of its release, because it was awful at release, has the best parkour in any Assassin. They basically perfected the parkour system. It's amazing. And Paris is so fun to run around, and it looks great to this day, and the story's pretty good. I'm like, because you fucked up the launch, and then Syndicate was being made at the same time by a different studio, and that one kind of sucked, in my opinion. You took the franchise in a completely different direction, which I don't dislike, but I really wish that we'd gotten more games like Unity before you moved on. We got one amazing gem of a parkour through a city, and then never more.
But the final thing I'll say on AC Valhalla is it has overtaken Black Flag as my favorite Assassin's Creed game, which I never thought was possible. It's honestly, I had such a fucking blast playing AC Valhalla, and the story just had me like captivated. Like it's a bloody long game, I'll tell you that. Like there are a few points where I was like, oh, I must be coming to the end now. And then like 20 hours later, I finish and I'm like, oh, okay. But like, goddamn, that was really good.
Did you have? Do you have all the DLC?
I do, because I have it on Uplay.
Okay, because I was going to say I have all the DLC, so that's even I know I'm pretty far through it, and it's very daunting whenever they add more DLC. I'm like,
Oh yeah, I haven't even started the DLC yet.
okay.
I've had a bit of a break because, as I said, I played like 30 hours over like 2 or 3 days. Um, so I got a little bit burnt out, but I definitely intend to go back to it and play through the DLC, especially because they are releasing like a new RPG DLC or something, which I haven't read about. But
It's you get a rocket propelled grenade. It's pretty cool.
fuck yeah.
I will say if I never do, I fully intend to go back to it. But if I never do go back to it, that's okay because I bought the entire game Legendary Edition with all the DLC for £9.99. So I've already gotten my money's worth out of it.
Yeah, very nice.
Thanks, intern who fucked up the percentage on the discount for Norway, and thanks Reddit for letting me know, and thanks NordVPN, it probably was, for letting me pretend to be Norwegian. We're not sponsored, but we could
But
be.
yeah, so that's AC Valhalla. Very quickly, I finished the first Thrawn book. That was really good.
Canon or Legends?
Canon.
Okay.
Canon. I'm probably not going to bother with Legends.
You should, but fair enough.
But yeah,
I don't know about the canon stuff, so I don't know if it's amazing or not. But yeah, the legend stuff is amazing. So,
well, I really fucking enjoyed it. I did see a few reviews because I listened to it on Audible just because I literally can't be bothered to read anymore. But I did see a few reviews saying like, oh, it's boring, just like because basically, like throughout the whole book, you see people's expressions and like the way their tone and everything through Thrawn's perception of it. So it's basically his inner monologue, like saying like, his tone shifts to whatever, or his mouth slightly lowers, expressing discontent or something like that. And people are like, oh, it's so boring. But I really don't think it is. Like, I think it's a really interesting way of describing people's like expressions and everything, and like exploring their different emotions and how they feel about certain things, and how he just like how his brain works and everything. And other people were saying like, oh, it's just so boring. Like, he's just always like right and winning battles and stuff. And I'm like, well, like, yes, but that's not what it's about. Like, that he still has conflict in these things because he is an alien in a very racist empire, and he's surrounded by a bunch of people that don't want him to succeed, but they can't help but let him succeed because he's just so damn fucking good at what he does. And I just really enjoyed it. I think it's a fascinating book. I can't wait to start the next one. Probably going to do that at work this week. Yeah, really good. And then the last thing that I just wanted to quickly say was Kraven the Hunter. I also
you haven't
recently
consumed it. It's not out yet. You can't have consumed it.
I consumed the article saying that Aaron Taylor Johnson
is backtracking on the comments about Kraven being a world-loving, peacekeeping animal person.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm more concerned or less.
I'm more concerned.
Man, I really fucking hope the movie's going to be good. I don't think it is.
It's not going to be good. It's going to be another Morbius.
Mm.
But at least it'll make a little bit more sense when he says it's Kraven time, because it'll be like him craving some honey wheat cereal. Right. We're at 3.5 hours. I'm going to rattle these off real quick. Witcher. I've been reading through the Witcher book. I'm just finished the Edge of the World one, or End of the World one. So the next one is The Last Wish, which is the final short story, I think, in this book. Really, really enjoying it so far. It's good. Hasn't made me hate the show yet, but I do think that the episode based on The End of the World or The Edge of the World is not a very good episode compared to the short story, but the rest of them are alright. And Smallville. I've been wanting to talk about this for so long. All of these delays and misses of the podcast has just been me like burning up inside wanting to talk about Smallville and how fucking insane Smallville is. I've seen Smallville before. I watched it when I was a kid. When I literally used to watch it on TV when I was a kid. But for some fucking reason, I decided to start rewatching it, and it's amazing. It's the best show ever in all of the ways. First of all, I don't know if I asked you this question, so if I did ask you this question, you'll know the answer, Alex. But how old... Have you ever seen Smallville?
Yeah.
How old do you think the main characters are in season 1?
You did indeed ask me this question, and obviously I'd say, like, at the least, late teens.
The 14?
Yeah.
The 14. Yeah. Season 1 has, like, gratuitous shots of Lana Lang trying to seduce Clark when she's, like, drugged on something by undressing and swimming in a swimming pool in front of him. You've got Lex is hanging out with a 14-year-old when he's 21. That's a bit weird. And he's like obsessed over him. That's a bit weird. Season 2, a teacher tries to seduce a 15-year-old Clark to try and get back at Lex. That's a bit weird. It's fucking buck wild. But it just gets crazier and crazier. And I don't want to talk about it too much because there's too much to talk about. But I want to share this with you, Alex. So, yesterday... I'm now in season 4. Yesterday I finished watching an episode which kind of deals with virginity. Clark is potentially going to lose his virginity with a girl who's given him red kryptonite, so he's acting on his impulses, and she's in love with him. And he's in love with her, but he doesn't want to go that far, but the red kryptonite is going to make him go that far. They've gotten married in Las Vegas, and they're about to have sex in a hotel. Meanwhile, Lana wants to get her boyfriend back, so she's going to have sex with him. And
wait, hang on. They got married, and he's meant to be like.
Oh, at this
14.
point he's 18.
Oh,
because it's season 4.
Okay.
It's 4 years later.
I was gonna say, what the fuck?
So Lana's about to have sex with her boyfriend to try and make sure that he doesn't break up with her, and Chloe's like, okay, I mean, look, if you want to do that, but like, blah, 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 percentage of teens regret having sex too early, and I had sex too early, and yeah, I regret it. And then no one ends up having sex by the end of the episode. But the whole kind of episode is dealing with sex and like teenage sex, right? In a very kind of PG-13 sort of way. So occasionally at the end of these episodes, they have PSAs. So the big one was when they had Christopher Reeve, who played Superman in the original Donna Superman films. He appears in Smallville a couple of times as a character, and every time he appeared in one of those episodes, there'd be a PSA at the end where basically it'd be him and Tom Welling, who plays Clark Kent in the show, doing an appeal for people to donate to the charity that Christopher Reeves ran. Pretty good, right? That's a nice little PSA. I like that. And it's also kind of cute. But anyways, this one, though, was one about teenage sex. And it was basically, they got one of the actors of the show to say, you know, sex isn't something that we should shy away from. It's an important topic in everyone's life. If you're a parent or a teenager and you want advice, go to, and it directs you to a website. Fine. Not too much. Guess which actor they chose to do the PSA about sex.
Was it Chloe?
It was Chloe, Alison Mack, the person who, at some point during her tenure on Smallville and went on to stay in a sex cult where they branded people and, you know, did sex trafficking. And that aged quite possibly the worst it possibly could have aged.
Yep, I would say that is the case.
Yep. So, Smallville's buck wild, but then sometimes the extra stuff around it's buck wild. Like, early on in season 1, she makes a reference to someone joining a cult as well, and I was like, ooh. But yeah, it's a fun time, though. It's a lot of fun. And I think it genuinely is a good show at its heart. There's a lot of earnest, genuinely, like, heartfelt moments, and I think they did a really good job doing a show about Clark Kent. I think when I finish this, I might go on to watch Superman and Lois, which I've heard really good things about, and like people have said it's an amazing adaptation of Superman. And I think I just really dislike edgelord Superman adaptations, like Injustice. Like I think they have a place, but there's just too much of them, and there's an oversaturation of them. And you know, I like Henry Cavill as Superman as an actor. I dislike the Superman that he plays because Zack Snyder doesn't know how to write Superman either, and so having a like earnest, kind, genuine Spider-Man, Superman, Spider-Man as well, it's nice to see. So yeah, that's my Smallville review. Somebody say. I sing that song every single time I watch an episode. It's the best intro ever. Anyways, we've been going for a long time, but we did it.
It was a very long podcast.
That might be the longest podcast. Aren't you glad we start early these days?
I mean, you know, we were gone for a while. There was a lot of news. We banged it out in one episode.
We missed
you know?
Comic-Con, you know? And we didn't.
Yeah.
We basically just talked about Marvel Comic-Con stuff. We didn't talk about DC's. Do you want Shazam or do you want evil Shazam? That's DC's offerings this year at Comic-Con.
Or Super Pets.
Or Super Pets. Yeah, so. But yeah. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
If you like this video, we're giving you a thumbs up for liking the video, but also you could give us a thumbs up on the YouTube UI. That would help us out. So you could give us a subscription if you're not subscribed already. It means you'll get notifications when we take a 3-week break and then do another new season start. You'll know, rather than being like, where the fuck are these guys? And if you didn't want us to come back, if you thought you were finally done with us and you thought that, you know, you were free, let us know in the comments below. Tell us to fuck off.
Shut the cyber fuck up, you gonk, and listen to the Higgledy Piggledy podcast.
Goodbye.